Okay. Salam, everyone. I'm Teferi Abate. I think you know most of you. You know me, which is a privilege. This workshop is organized by Wollo University Diaspora Advisory Group, and we have Dr. Adane Gebeyaw with us, current chairman of the group. I'm here as member of the group, and this is a great privilege for me to kind of introduce the event. We have a lot of things lined up. Our distinguished speakers, Dr. Gebre, Professor Gebre Tessema is already in the house. We'll have later speakers from Europe, Dr. Ayalew and Dr. Slashy. They will tell us about funding opportunities in the EU. But because we have just a lot of stuff to cover, let's get started. We don't need much formality about it. I would like to start by inviting Dr. Adane Gebeyaw to say just a few words on behalf of the organizers, Wollo University Diaspora Advisory Group. And then we'll invite Dr. Awol Seid, Academic Vice President of Wollo University, just to welcome everyone here, especially our distinguished speaker, Professor Gebre Tessema. So, Dr. Adane, would you just introduce the group and the event?
አመሰግናለሁ ዶክተር ተፈሪ ስሜ አዳነ ገበያው ካሳ ነው የሚባለው እዚህ ዩናይትድ ስቴትስ ነው ያለሁት በከፍተኛ ትምህርት አመራርና ምርምር ሙያ ነው ያለሁት እንግዲህ ወሎ I'm sorry በአማርኛ የማይሰማ አለ እዚህ ውስጥ
አለ
Oh okay so I can make it in English. So the Wollo University Diaspora Advisory Group started about 4 years ago. I know we come together, a group of Ethiopians come together and thought about supporting at least one of the universities. And then we mostly the people who first came together were from that area, and we said, okay, at least let's support this university in providing information and probably when the need arises advising the university administration and supporting the university with equipment and other things. So we formed the Wollo University Diaspora Advisory Group. Since it was established, we did something. Let me see, at least the first one, we collected some money and sent to Desi Hospital when there was a war from the northern side. We sent about, I think, close to $4,000 to the hospital so that they can buy pajamas for their patients. And we also worked with our friends from Europe, and we sent laptops up about 25 laptops and I think a number of hotspots, what do you call the kind of relay that they use for Wi-Fi. And one of our friends, Dr. Dresse, also collaborated with his friends, and he sent about 160 servers and a number of switches and hard drives to support the universities, not only the Wollo University, but Adama University, ASTU, Arbamint, and many other universities. And Dr. Teferi, one of our colleagues, the one who started this session, he also worked with Fulbright Scholarship, and he got Fulbright Scholarship and served the university. And we have senior members of our group who advised the university in raising funds, especially after it's been affected by the war. So we have done some activities to support the university. And this is one of the programs we have, kind of lecture series. It's not only from our side, but also to hear from the university and to collaborate and help the university achieve its mission. I think this is in short what the Wollo University Diaspora Advisory Group is. If Dr. Awol is here, probably I will invite him. Is Dr. Awol here?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm here, Dr. Adane.
Okay, Dr. Awol, can I still link? Dr. Awol is the academic vice president of Wollo University. As I said, we try to support, if we can, all the universities, but primarily we focus on the Wollo area universities, and we can expand from that. That's why we picked the Wollo University now. So, Dr. Awol, can you make a short opening remark, please? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Adane, for having me to make the opening speech on this webinar, grant writing training. And at the outset, I would like to thank the Wollo University Diaspora Advisory Group. As you were mentioning, actually, you have been instrumental in our engagement. So we are thankful for that. And this is just one of, this is just one of the support that you are really facilitating. So we are thankful for this. And for the attendee, what I want to extend is you need to give the due attention for this training, because this is not the training of like others. I can witness, because we usually give trainings from readings and from different things, but this is actually a training on lived experience. So the people who are going to share us is actually having a long years of experience in grant writing, in grant management, in grant acquisition, and even in grant evaluation. So we have to give the attention it deserves. And I'm really happy to see after a long months of trial of organizing this event, because it has been actually thought of some months back when I think Dr. Teferi was here, and finally we make it today. So thank you very much for everyone who was facilitating this behind. And finally, what I want to share for the audience is the Wollo Diaspora Group. They have been supporting us in re-establishing, in the recovery, reconstruction, and the renovation process of our university, especially after the 2021 war. Our university was actually badly damaged, and they helped us actually to recover. Their support was in every direction. We are thankful for that. And for the ICT support also, they have helped us in recovering our ICT facilities and in strengthening, actually in the expansion also. That is, I think, one of the things I need to acknowledge. Above all, their support in making our university international is also beyond words. Dr. Ayalew, I can mention from Netherlands, Dr. Sleshi, Dr. Seid from Germany, from the US, Dr. Adane, Dr. Teferi, Professor Belay, and actually I will not list all, I know, but and Dr. Dressy was also here last month. So they have been with us for the last many years. I can say for the last 3-4 years. They have been closely following our university's progress. Thank you very much on behalf of our university and also on the audience attending this event. I don't want to say much about the grant, even if can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, even if I used to give the grant writing training for different groups, I know this is of a very different.
Oh, Awol, you are breaking.
What about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so even if this is an online training, try to avoid distraction the audience and stay focused until the end of this training. I'm sure you will benefit, because I used to give also this grant writing training, but mine was actually more of from a reading. This one is from a lived experience, I can say, because I was reading the CV of Professor Tessema. I was quite impressed. Our staff in the Magdala staff, WU-DAG, maybe also they might have also joined us. So this is also one new and unique approach, because collaborating our universities, Magdala, Wollo, WU-DAG, in the future also we may include others. This is a very good approach. I like also the approach. So thank you very much for everyone who was behind this initiative. I really thank you. And I will try to follow you, even if I'm in following an exam currently running, this remedial exam, online exam. I will try to follow, and I will be here. Thank you very much for all of you, and the training is officially open now.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Awol. That was wonderful. And I don't want us to spend a lot of time. I know Professor Tessema is busy, and we have also his co-speaker, Dr. Soulemane here. Thank you everyone again for coming. I see so many names here. Definitely Bahar Dar University is in, Magdala is in, WU-DAG, as I said, and maybe we have Bahar Dar also somewhere. I see Professor Berhanu Abegaz here, founder of the Wollo University Diaspora Advisory Group, one of the founders. And I wish he would say something too, but definitely we'll invite him later on, and he will contribute. Right now, let's start with our distinguished speaker. And I just dropped a link to a brief biography of Professor Tessema. It is in the chat room. In case you didn't see, please just have a look at that and follow up also. Read it later. Prepare to be inspired. Really, it is an interesting journey. Physics. What do I know about physics as a discipline? I always thought it's not, if I may say, it is not a sexy discipline. That is why I ran into anthropology instead, into the more softer side of it, cultural anthropology. But I'm a big fan of scientists also. And, you know, it's just nice. We have a lifetime physicist with us to speak on it, on something that we are looking forward to, a skill-based, soft skill, grant writing, which we need. Just to tell you a little bit about Professor Tessema, from what I read here, of course, his story is just like a story of any Ethiopian young boy. You know, he starts with his. Can you hear me? Yeah, with a quote from his father, you know, Tamar Lige. I like it a lot. But
can you unmute? I'm sorry, Teferi. Participant, could you please mute your mic, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the Tamar Lige saying, please. Yeah, and then took that advice seriously, you know, starting in Addis Ababa with a preparatory school, a French school, and traveling to France. And just life has it, you know, coming back over the other side of the continent here, when physics was not that famous discipline, especially among African-American colleagues, right? And then giving back, that is really another inspiring part. Going back to Addis Ababa University, as external examiner and then directly supporting laboratories in his specialization, which I can't even pronounce. Is it the magnetic of materials? Yeah, that is all interesting. And also specifically about grants. Professor Tessema started in a small university where there was no, well, which was not offering a PhD program in physics. And he started a program, a PhD program using grants, which is something we all try to do in Ethiopia, right? We are all in these young institutions with not, well, sometimes no laboratories at all in the disciplines we want. And we respond to that demand by mobilizing funds from wherever possible. Grant is just one of the alternatives. So I know I can't do a fair job trying to introduce him in detail, but just briefly summarizing what inspired me about Professor Tessema, that should be enough. I know Professor Tessema has invited a colleague from his workplace, the National Science Foundation. And also there, thank you for your service. Impressed to read that you have been there for more than 20 years, right? Yeah, thank you so much. And the floor is yours.
Dr. Soulemane, your co-host also, you can share screen.
I got it. You can hear me now?
Yes, we hear you.
All right. Thank you for the very nice and generous introduction. I really am very excited to see so many young people participating in this workshop. Soulemane is my colleague at NSF. Can I share the slide here?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I will share it in a format that is not a presentation format, and you let me know if you see everything.
We see it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you see, then there are two young people here on this picture. I didn't paint my hair black. It's just that's the way it was many years ago. And that's the only picture I found as of this morning. My colleague is Dr. Soulemane Omar Diallo. He's a native of Niger. And he is also a physicist, neutron scatterer, PhD from Delaware University. Had a lot of experience with international experience in the sense that he used large facilities across the world to investigate what we call soft matter, mostly, and which is a hot and emerging topic for a while and continues to be. He joined us at NSF about 5-6 years ago. So Soulemane, I didn't check your bio exactly, but I know that that's about the right amount of time. Soulemane and I are both work very closely on Africa issue, even though our portfolio, you will see, is not international, but we're committed to helping Africa in whatever we can from where we are. To do justice, you have my bio, Professor Amara Teferi. I didn't forward his bio. I brought him on board very last minute, but I will forward his bio separately for if you have documentation. All right, so Soulemane, you want to say hi?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I think Tess covered it very well, so happy to be here with this audience. and answer
Thank you.
question that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Soulemane. So we have prepared, there is a hand, somebody has raised their hand. How do we want to proceed? You let me know the rule, Dr. Teferi. My own suggestion is that we go over quickly on a brief presentation, and then we open ourselves to questions. Let me know how do you want to engage?
Absolutely, that is a good way. Just to continue. In the meantime, the rest of us, please mute and let's try to create a very nice environment for the presentation to go. Continue, please. Yeah.
So we've been very careful in giving you a title that says tips. That's why we are here to give, but we will give overview. But we can imagine that the workshop is now I see is very nicely developed. A lot of great speakers and great titles and for the day. Yeah, grant writing would require an activity like that. Maybe at some point, Soulemane and I were talking that we could have a hands-on like training where we can plan bringing in and giving you homework before you come and reviewing proposals and then bringing you as reviewers. That means criticizing what you have read and evaluating based on specific criteria and discussing and writing recommendation. That's an excellent exercise that we both practice when we do program review here at the National Science Foundation. We like to bring young people to get them to be panelists so they can learn how to write proposals. So that is really an excellent way to do that, and we'll coordinate with you another time to do that, to do something like that. But it would be very useful. So to proceed, this is sort of an abstract that we gave you, and I'm not sure you have received the update, but the Soulemane's bio.
Sorry, Dr. Tessema, I think some people say they don't see the slides. Can you put it on full screen or if possible?
They don't see the slide. It's on full screen.
Yeah, someone said.
Is it too small? Is that the idea?
I don't know. Someone's put on the chat that they don't see. Do you guys see the slides?
I think it is not on slide presentation. You are only sharing the screen.
Oh, the slide is not being shared? Okay, I stop sharing.
No, hold on.
And then share it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And could you make it on presentation, like a slide?
So the trick about Zoom and sharing presentation, it's my experience, is that when you put it on presentation mode, you get into some trouble.
Okay.
This is an experience that I have, but is it not big enough for you? It doesn't fill the screen?
I see it. I don't know why they are.
It is fine with me too.
Yeah, I think that's right. It is enough.
I have had unpleasant experience.
Sorry, go ahead.
Presentation mode on Zoom, and that's why I put it like this. So anyway, to make sure that we comply with the rules, we have to let you understand that both of us are here presenting our personal ideas, and whatever we say and you read here, it by no means does not express the agency position or the National Science Foundation's positions and opinion. That has to be very clear. So let's continue with So this is a National Science Foundation. So other sort of outline, we'll give you a brief background of what the National Science Foundation is and what it does, very high level. And then we will describe some of the proposal submission process at the National Science Foundation, and then give you some tips, and we follow, and then we'll open up for question and answer. So the National Science Foundation is a U.S. independent agency that's located in Arlington, Virginia, in the U.S. It has a mission to create a nation that exploits and creates new concepts on science and engineering and provide global leadership in research and education. The mission is to promote science, as you know, to advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare, and to secure the national defense. It has strategic goals to transform the frontiers of science, to stimulate innovation and address societal needs through research and education, and to excel in the federal government and science as a science agency. Briefly, the nation has, generally this is NSF by the numbers, so a lot of big numbers here. But what we want you to get from this is that the budget is about it was 8.1 billion in 2019, but it's still in that range. We receive about 48,000 proposals that we evaluate every year. And then we make about 12,000 awards. A lot of it in STEM education and research, very small in the private sector. NSF brags as an agency that has funded many of the Nobel Prize winners over time. The field of science, biology, engineering, mathematical, computer sciences, mathematical sciences, computer sciences, geosciences, and then there are cross-cutting activities such as integrative activities, education and human resource, social and behavioral sciences, and engineering, international program. We have an international program. One thing to note is the agency funds, mission is to fund U.S. universities primarily. This is sort of an org chart to show where Soulemane and I fit within NSF. So it's a very simple agency. So you have a director, you have the office of the director. Under the office of the director, you have the directorate, so biology, computer science, engineering, geosciences, and mathematical sciences, and these other offices. And then social and behavioral sciences. That I went through that. Within the mathematical and physical sciences, which directorate, which has about $1.7 billion budget, we are the division of material research, and then these are the other divisions. And our budget is somewhere close to $350 million a year. The materials research covers biomaterials, ceramics, electronic and photonic materials, metals, metallic nanostructures, polymers, condensed matter, physics, condensed matter theory, and solid-state chemistry. These are the disciplinary programs, but a lot of cross-cutting programs. The details are really a matter of portfolio. The big program that Soulemane and I fit in is called the National Facilities and Instrumentation Program. And these are the neutron facility, the X-ray facility, the high magnetic field facility, facility for nanotechnology coordination, and then what we call the material innovation platforms. So this is sort of a very high-level overview of NSF. So NSF, as I said, about 48,000 proposals a year. There is a website that you can go to that you can look about at how to submit the proposal. This is the idea that we present here is to not necessarily that you have to, as a invitation to submit to NSF, but other model of how a funding agency is organized. Generally, we have a front like this, a website. On the website, you have a proposal solicitations or program descriptions, and you submit the proposal to the documentation that you need to submit a proposal are all available out there. Funded proposals are summaries of funded proposals are provided openly, and you can read those. And you can identify programs, divisions, directorates, and so on and so forth. So, Soulemane, is there anything critical in the overview that I missed?
No, I think it's good, Tess. Thank you.
Yeah, so we didn't want to overburden you with all NSF speech, but the idea is that if there is a website that's what we wanted to, and all programs have and funding agencies have some ways that you can reach out and to find out information about through a website, and make sure you look at that. Many agencies like NSF, we hold an award database in the website. You can search the database; it's openly available. You can use keywords to search that, and these show you what is already funded. And based on that, you can sort of get an understanding what the agency funds. Of course, it's important to talk to colleagues who have who work in similar disciplines to find the solicitation and to learn what are the requirements and the pitfalls. This kind of program, of course, is very useful for that. Before you submit a proposal, you have to read very carefully the solicitation or the program, the call for proposal. Soulemane and I have seen a lot of proposals come on our desk. A lot of time we find some serious oversight of people not carefully reading the request, the solicitation, and that is a fatal mistake. It is always advised to contact the program director in advance. Don't be shy about it. That's something that you all do. I have done in my young age. As much as you can, feel free to send in a paragraph or two describing the project that you intend to explore. A program director can look at it. They can tell you, yeah, this is great. This fits in my program. Please submit. Or they can tell you, well, maybe you should contact so-and-so and help you in the direction that you might want to go. Maybe calling and talking with about the project is a good idea, but make sure that you take an appointment and with the program director. Program directors can be very busy people, but if you request time, they'll be very happy to talk to you. We do that all the time. Yeah, Soulemane, any add-on to these tips?
Or no additional comment. Thank you.
Yeah, so just a comment. NSF is a science funding agency. It's of course highly, but its practices of proposal management can be considered as a good model for other agencies. So we'll describe that this is more of a typical information that you might get if you go to the NSF website and search the database and click on some award number in your field. It tells you the division in which the program is funded, the program, the funds are located, and the title. But most of all, it gives you a short abstract that describes the kind of thing that is funded. So searching and surfing through the website to figure that out is good. I'm not getting you a tutorial on how to get into the NSF website. I don't want to waste your time, but just want you to learn how that's an important activity before you submit a proposal. Anything to add?
Yeah, so I think you, in the slide before, you probably said it clearly that when you do reach a program director, the one before this one, it's not, the idea is not to get a scientific evaluation of your proposal. Program director would answer programmatic questions. They will also see if what you're proposing align with the program. And so you can imagine out of those 50,000, if we were to give scientific feedback to anybody, it's just impossible. So just be come with 20 questions, whether first of all this is a priority for that particular program, and also sort of whether you're responding to the solicitation appropriately, right? So the program. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, this is important. And one of the big rules for a program director, of course, is to be to level the playing field, right? They're not here to give you scientific advice, as Soulemane pointed out. They are here, they can tell you whether the idea that you present in that short paragraph fits in their program. But their job is to make sure that everyone gets a fair chance and not to give scientific advice up front. And then it doesn't mean that just because you reached out to them, they will have any favorable special favor for your proposal. At least in our case, it's a highly competitive process. So their advice is mostly on, formatting and whether programmatically it fits there or where it should fit. So I'll skip this one. Okay, I guess this goes outside the screen. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, so before writing a proposal, so you need to understand what are the rules, what are the expectations, right? There must be some program guidance, some documentation that describes what the rules and expectations are for the funding agency. For NSF, we have what we call the PAPG. The acronym is this is an acronym, but it lays out very clearly what is required. And then the PAPG is the general rules, but there is a call for a proposal that we put in what we call a solicitation, and that is a specific program that you need to respond to. It describes the goal of the program. Are you eligible? Some are eligible for some type of institution, some type of countries, some types of organization. And then you got to check. You make sure that whether it's there are deadlines, and you comply by the deadlines. Deadlines are deadly. You skip the deadline, you are set for another cycle. Meaning it could be a year, it could be a different process. Some agencies and some programs may ask you to submit a pre-proposal or preliminary proposal, meaning is a shorter version of the proposal that they would ask you to submit. And then there can be by invitation or after review of the pre-proposal you can then be asked to submit a full proposal or submit a full proposal. But check the documentation carefully and the rules and the requirements. The anatomy of a proposal for NSF looks like this. You have to have a very nice project summary, and then which is about 1 page or so. And then a project description for NSF is a typical project description for an individual investigator is about 15 pages. And then we have very specific criteria. If you submit a proposal, then you have to understand what the criteria that will be used for NSF. We'll go over that, and for any other agency for that matter. Project description has to include information about, in our case, previous NSF support, but some indication of what you have done in the past, because a key question is that why you? Why is it that you are the guy who would do that kind of research? Why, how you delivered in the past? What level of confidence do you give to the funding agency that their money is well spent? You need to include references. The idea is that how well-grounded is your proposal in the literature, and how current is that, and how much does it advance the field of knowledge from the state it is at. It requires a biosketch. Each agency has its own template. NSF has its own template. It requires a budget section that tells what is exactly the resources that are needed. And the budget has a certain template of its own. So you have to follow the budget template or the table format that the agency wants to see. Current and pending support, if you have support from NSF, you have to show. It's again to show that, how much time do you have to work on that project. And then NSF has other requirements, but other agencies will have different collaborations and affiliations have to be well documented. And with the new policies of open data access, NSF available.
Please mute yourself. Sorry, Professor.
Soulemane, any general comment on the slides?
Well, okay, yeah, I think this is good. I guess there are some, as Dr. Tessema said, the PAPPG gets updated from time to time. So this is obviously the standard format, but there are some additional things. So you want to make sure you check the PAPPG. If you're submitting to NSF, for example, there's now a new thing called graduate student mentoring plan, in addition to the postdoc mentoring plan. Yes. But otherwise, it's a good summary.
I think what you need to consider is that why this project is important, and that has to come out very clear. Why is it so important that you do this project? And then the question is that what should come out is that why is it that you are the one who should do this research? And what do you bring? What are your strengths? So generally, make sure that you build your proposal based on your strength, and so you need to be sure that comes out very clearly. For research, what's unique about the research? What are the broader opportunities that it provides? the key point is that the reviewer is there and maybe spend a day reading your proposal and forming an opinion. So you have to be sure that your document is written very carefully in such a way to capture the attention of the reviewer, and in particular, the summary section and the introduction section, right? Opinions are formed right, at first sight. The PI or the reviewer or whoever, the program director or an external reviewer, in the case of NSF, they look at a proposal, they read a summary, they can pretty much form a general opinion about it. And therefore, you have to spend a lot of time crafting that summary. And the burden is on you to convince the reviewer that you are worthy of funding, right? Again, here's to stress that it's your job, not the reviewer's job to convey what you try to accomplish. And so this is sort of the key point is that, and that means that this takes planning, this takes consulting, reviewing, reading many times, and sharing your documents with experienced people so they can give you feedback. And yes, Soulemane, anything, any wisdom you want to add to this?
Sure, thank you. So one thing I could say that if you're writing a collaborative proposal, so often you may write a proposal as a single PI, but if you're writing with a group, especially if it's interdisciplinary, do make sure that you involve your other collaborators in the writing of the whole proposal, because what happens is, as Dr. Tessema is explaining, is as a reviewer, when I'm reading this, sometime when you see a disconnect, a lack of coherence between the different subject or the activities that are going to be done, then that actually that dampen enthusiasm around your proposal. So don't be the only, you have to involve it, don't be the only one kind of carrying the horse, but you need to make sure that you involve so that your proposal is all coherent and all cohesive. In that case, all
right. Okay. So that means that you can see all the very detailed work that is needed to have a competitive proposal. And so the idea is that before you submit your proposal, you need to start early, plan early, and well in advance, of course, of deadlines, if there are deadlines or submission date. Make sure that someone with experience reads your proposal. Don't be shy. Here it says, leave your ego behind. So that is very important. Don't be afraid of criticism. You better being criticized in-house than submit your proposal, wait for the time, and then be rejected. So in-house, and at least Soulemane and I can speak to this, that you have to understand that everyone, even Nobel Prize winning people, can submit a proposal and get rejected. And so you can be persistent. Don't give up. Come back and redo it again. Don't be devastated by failure. Again, this is don't wait for the deadline. Typically, US universities have mostly what we call the sponsored research offices, that they help them find the deadlines and the nuances about the deadlines and the open-ended acceptance, and they give them editorial help and formatting help. It may not be true for all universities, but big universities have that. I think one of the important things that in the modern days is that don't just read the electronic version online and then poof, submit it. Make sure you have a a printout, and you read it carefully several times to look at. It is friendly for the reader to use, to read and check and double check. Yeah, okay. And the next phase, these are the tips that sort of we thought that may be useful for a broad range of proposals that you can submission. Before we get to the quick description of the NSF merits review, I would like to Soulemane to, if you have anything to add.
No, not about this one. Thank you, Tess.
All right. Then for NSF, as I said, it's intellectual merit is a very important criteria, but that's not enough. You know, it's not just I have a great idea and this is my great idea, give me money. It is NSF is supported by the taxpayers, and so the big question is that what is the broader impact? What are the taxpayers or the funding agency in general gets out of it? So it's not just about your idea, but what the broader benefit for society. And for NSF, it could be education, training, advancing the technology, the nation's health, defense, a broader range of topics that need to be covered. Here is more of the kind of broader impact. I think it would be true for any agency to understand beyond just the idea is what is the broader benefit to the society or to the community they support. So this is an additional set of tips that make sure that your references are up to date, right? The question is that, you know, how current is the knowledge base that you start with? Make sure you follow the formats that the funding agency requires in the way that you put these references. Make sure that your bio sketch is also up to date. There are, at least for NSF, because we reach out to the broader community, we have conflict of interest rule, and we send out your proposal outside to your peers to review and evaluate and give us an opinion. So conflict is very important. Make sure that the review criteria are addressed, both of them. Don't cash on one. A strong intellectual merit that is not necessarily have a broader impact will not be funded. If a strong broader impact without intellectual merit will not be funded. Typically, you have to combine the two. Proofread your project description. Make sure that you show that you are the right person to do that. You have prior funding if you have. If you don't, talk about the science that you have done in the past and what you have accomplished. It's very important. And these are other requirements in the case for NSF. It may not be the case for other agencies, so I would not insist on that. This is sort of a checklist of what we went through, but for NSF-centric. So I would, yeah, okay. This slide is to say that this is a discussion is NSF-centric. But it's a template, it's a model that we're presenting. But if you're looking at funding with the US, you can get NSF funding through collaboration with other US-based researchers, but NSF is really US focused. But there are other agencies that have international reach, which is the National Institute of Health, and then several of the Department of Energy, and the Department of Defense in particular, and through its Air Force office, Army office, the Navy office, all of these are actually fund researchers outside the country. And I'm not, and what we hear, Soulemane and I hear, is that they're not getting a lot of proposals from Africa. So you need to reach out to these. And because you're working for these agencies doesn't mean that you are working for to build a weapon for the U.S. It's they will support your research. Of course, they will see what the benefits for them, but they will support your research. I have seen some funding going that way. And there are other funding sources that you may want to find out how to find out. Ask your mentors, ask your collaborators. One advice is that look at the publications in the acknowledgement section. And if you look at the acknowledgement section, you will find the agency that funds the kind of research that you are reading. And so you can reach out to them. And the last thing is that the institution should have some form of office to support you. And that is called the Sponsored Research Office, mostly in the US. But that institutional support is critical for your success. Soulemane.
That's all good, Tess. Thank you.
So I'll make this the last. I don't know if I took all the time that we took all the time that we allocated to us. We are open for questions.
Professor Tessema, we'll have also question and answer session just briefly, but I just can't stop you. I love it. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Questions?
Sure.
Oh, there are a lot of chats. I'm sorry, I didn't see the chats.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was a lot of tips, and definitely myself as someone was tried with NSF, both with a success and sometimes not a success. I find this very relevant. Like the question you asked, why you, why me, why I should be selected for this. It is very important question, and will definitely, you gave us a lot of stuff to chew. One question which already came in the chat room is, would you please share these excellent slides with a lot of information, not only tips, but also link to relevant information. So if you could kindly share it with us.
I'll be happy to do that. I will polish and update the links, maybe add the actual links in my effort to try to make this a non-NSF talk. I've deleted a lot of stuff from this talk, but they would be relevant in the document that I share. I will add them back.
All right, great. So you may now stop sharing your screen. And I hope people have questions. Questions, please. You can raise your hand. I think the raise your hand feature is on, or you can just type in the question and answer, or just in the chat room here. Questions for Professor Tessema and his colleague Soulemane.
Hello, can I ask a question? This is Yale.
Sure, Dr. Yeno, go ahead. Yeno Tasfai from Diallo University.
Thank you, Dr. Tessema and Professor Tessema and Dr. Soulemane for this exciting, interesting, and thought-provoking an insider view presentation. So I have two questions, and I would like to make them very short. The first one is eligibility. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think NSF grant is meant for US citizens, national, and permanent residents. So how can you help researchers in Ethiopia? How can you tell us, researchers in Ethiopia, the opportunity they may have to apply for NSF funds? This is the first question. The other one is, let me say that I'm a US citizen, and can I apply as independent researcher, like independent postdoctoral researcher? Thank you.
All right. Great question. Let's get some more questions. Make them brief, please, so that our guests will have a chance to answer most of them like together, just in the interest of time. I don't see hands. Or Dr. Adane, please.
I see two hands. Seid, maybe you can go ahead and ask.
Okay. Go ahead, Seid, unmute yourself.
No, he's not there. Professor Berhanu, you can go ahead and ask.
Okay, thank you for a wonderful presentation. Can you hear me?
Getachew, could you unmute, please? Go ahead, Professor.
Yeah, okay. I just have a question about the budget part of it. I had an NSF grant proposal rejected primarily because the reviewers thought that my budgetary allocation wasn't well tailored to the specific components of the proposal. And I was proposing field studies in 3 countries and couldn't quite estimate, how much different things would cost. So I made it a bit too general for them. So sometimes you can have a sound proposal and be rejected because your budget narrative is not well synced, and you didn't say much about that. So could you just elaborate on how to formulate a good budget, even when your SRO says your proposal is good enough? Thank you.
Yeah.
Great question. Yeah. Should we add more questions? I see Seid again. Seid, you can unmute yourself and ask. Okay, I guess Seid is not there or maybe listening. Adane, do you see any hand? Other hands? If not, why don't we just turn it back to Professor Tessema. Professor Tessema, you may address the 2 questions or 3.
Yep.
So I will ask Soulemane to address, and then I'll follow up.
Sure.
Okay, well, thank you. So I noted some of the questions, and if I missed something, please let me know. The first one was by Teferi. He was asking whether the proposal submission are limited to U.S. citizen. One thing I would say is that the NSF makes we make award to the institutions, the U.S. institutions. However, I think that was also explained that for international, if you have a collaboration with a U.S. institution or U.S. researcher, you may be able to get a collaborative grant. So the U.S. will fund the U.S. section, right? Suppose you have a collaboration that involves some component in Africa and some in the U.S., then NSF will support that aspect of the U.S. contribution. And so we do not make award to independent researchers per se. I think that was the question. And because the awards are made to the U.S. institution, they don't all require U.S. citizenship. So if you're a faculty at a U.S. institution, you may be eligible for a number of the grant that we have. So that's that's well clarified in the solicitation. And then, if I may go ahead, and then I'll let Tessema clarify. So the question I think
that's very clear.
Yeah, Berhanu is about the budgets. So budget is typically not a review criteria for us. However, there's some budget guidance. If you look at the solicitation, there would be an estimate of sort of what is the total allocated budget for that particular call and the expected number for. Then you could do the math and kind of roughly see what the package, what kind of package you could request. But you can also, through conversation with the program director, or even looking at the research, the award database, kind of have an idea what is the rough kind of budget for these type of awards. Now, if your budget, obviously, if you are doing, I'm just going to randomly pick something. If you do microscopy, and then you're asking for something that's not connected, so those are things that we can discuss, right? So the reviewer sometimes might be asking questions about what you're asking versus what you're planning to do, right? So those could be consideration by the review panel, but typically we advise them to look at the review criteria, which are intellectual merit, broader impacts, and also any solicitation specific review criteria that they may be. But we don't ask them to look too much into the budget unless it's so disconnected with what you're proposing. And I think those are the two key questions I got online, as I heard, but there's maybe one online as well. So Tess, you may want to clarify or add something.
No, I think it's a good, yeah. Definitely, Professor Berhanu, the budget, as Soulemane said, though it's not written as a review criteria, but we as program directors, in the end, what we give out is money, and therefore the budget justification and the reasonableness of the budget becomes an aspect that we have to consider. A program, as Soulemane said, that if the merit is such that a program may come and say, come negotiate budget with you and tell you to justify this and justify that. But a well-justified budget, the advantage in advance is that the reviewer community, what we ask the reviewer community is to find the strength and weakness in each proposal, right? Based on the criteria. And so anything that is not clear to them is a weakness. And it can bias that the reviewer is an individual, that all individuals have their bias or a bias is created while you're reading. And so that can reflect on their overall judgment. And the challenge is for NSF, it's a highly competitive process. So that means that weaknesses are in any area can be fatal, right?
Yeah.
So yes, and I'm glad you pointed that out. Budget justification has to be worked out very carefully, and the sponsor research office should be responsible for that. I see a question here. I think the question of eligibility.
Yeah.
Soulemane discussed that very well. If you are not a U.S. institution, you can directly apply to NSF, but you can collaborate. Look for collaboration programs. Maybe it would take a separate set of presentations to discuss international opportunities. But there are international opportunities, and please get in touch with me if you want to discuss those. But the main point is that you have to have a collaboration with a US-based scientist.
Great.
And then that can take many other forms. I see here a discussion about using AI for grant writing. I think that I can only tell you what I hear about AI, and the pitfalls in that is that AI is, of course, learning from what's out there available in the universe for them, and the big challenge is that people are getting into plagiarism issue, and that if you start doing AI and AI pulls the material from another proposal, it generates that for you, and you submit the proposal, and then it's found that that section has been discussed in a different proposal and that the program directors are aware of, or the literature, in the literature, then it is fatal. It is damaging not only to that particular proposal, but to your overall reputation and ability to submit proposals. So if you're using AI, make sure that you pay attention to possible issues of duplication that may be seen as plagiarism. And I'm not sure how well protected your idea is as well, because once you put it on the system, then it's available to the big machine, then I can share it with others. So you have to be very careful. And I hear those kind of challenges are out there.
Thank you both for that answer. We have more hands showing up. I especially would like to hear from Dr. Seid Muhie, our Wollo University main collaborator in this in organizing this workshop. So Dr. Seid, go ahead, please. Seid, we don't hear you.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Dr. Teferi. And yeah, and it is a very wonderful presentation. And then it is very tailored. And we really appreciated Professor Tessema and his colleague, Dr. Soulemane. In fact, he touched my question in some part. And then here in Wollo University and the other universities, there are many young faculty members. So we are not experienced, and at the same time, we don't have much network. Like you guys, you are very much experienced, and you have many network and partnership. So, and as Professor Tessema said, it is very competitive even to write a proposal and submit to NSF. So there should be someone like you or at your level to guide us, at least in the first round, until we get experience. So how it be possible for us to join a consortium of universities, or to have a professor from US like you guys, our brothers, to start something, at least to find a collaboration or to have a network or a partner? Yeah. What should we do in such matter? And then where is the platform that we can find to establish a consortium with US institutions and apply for the different opportunities that is coming from the US? Thank you.
Go ahead, Professor Tessema. Yeah.
Okay. Soulemane, I take this, and then you can help me. There are, of course, I mean, it's the same process in the US to build networking, right? Maybe I have to understand your survey. Your question is that how can Ethiopian scientists or African scientists in the diaspora can help us develop a culture of proposal writing. That's one, and the other is how can we develop collaborations internationally? I mean, so the collaboration internationally, of course, you have to have the opportunity to participate in and meet people, right? And meet people, they look at international workshops, for example. In the material area, we have the Africa Materials Research Society workshop conference that this year will be held in Rwanda in December. you can apply if you are in the field, and there may be some funding for you through the organizers to travel, and that is an excellent opportunity to exchange idea, to share your idea, to share your interest, and develop connections. And we've been funding the Africa Materials Research Society conference since its inception. I mean, for 20 years now, almost, and it's been a very good way of developing collaboration and joint proposals for materials research, and similarly for other areas. In fact, for NIH, it's even better because the health research is universal, right? It's not like NSF, where we only fund, NIH funds only US universities. NIH funds outside the NIH. If you have seen recently the congressional hearings, the director who was in charge of the COVID pandemic being grilled by the Congress people, part of it is because he put money in China, and they're thinking that maybe the virus was a result of a leak in a lab in China, but that's not. That's the political side of it, but the funding side of it is that NIH can put money in Ethiopia. So you look at that, and then to be more directly answer your question, there are a group of Ethiopians, I worked with them in the past, who are working on developing a group to help Ethiopian universities improve their proposal writing and their collaboration. I forgot the acronym, but Dr. Adane, were you part of that?
Not directly.
Okay, I think a lot of people, the Ethiopian young scientists, NIH funded and more. And we have organized before a workshop on proposal writing exactly with those people. But developing that is, and the other is that what do the institutions do to attract these Ethiopians and foreign people who are residing outside, inviting them to visit them, to give lectures. And these days, website in the Zoom is a nice way of doing that, connection relationship, and connect, developing relationship with them. Is very important. So yes. I know there's a lot of willingness in the community outside Ethiopia to help, whether it's Ethiopian native Ethiopians or internationals. Every time I bring, can we do something for Ethiopia? I see a lot of people willing to do that, but we have to make sure that there is a reception on the Ethiopian side, and infrastructure to accommodate that kind of collaboration as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much again. At some point,
can I add a point here, Dr. Teferi?
Say it again.
Yeah, I think, that's a very nice question, but I think, on the diaspora side, there are a lot of people who want to support this kind of initiative, like to work with the researchers in Ethiopia. But from the Ethiopian side also, the researchers and the institutions, they should share their idea with this kind of group. And then they can find partners or supporters from abroad. One of the purpose of this lecture series was to bring both groups together. So I think it's also sometimes from the Ethiopian institutions, to bring this kind of ideas to present and share their needs so that they can find partners from outside. Thank you.
Excellent. Listen, at some point in this workshop, we had 154 people. That is a large number of audience, and just start linking up here, networking, a follow-up with Professor Tessema and also his colleague Soulemane, and with all of us, the Wollo University Diaspora Advisory Group. There was one more hand, Pini. If you are still interested, you can ask one question.
Dr. Teferi, there is one information that I missed that Soulemane pointed out to me in the back channel, in the chat room actually,
Sure.
And that is that another opportunity, in particular for the young people. I hope you all know Dr. Sosina Haile. And there is a program that she manages, the Joint Undertaking of Africa Materials Institute, JUAMI, that we also support, and that this is to bring young. It's like every 2 years there is a school that she runs in Africa to bring young African students together. With young American students, of course, and to spend about 15 days to 3 weeks working on research projects together. And these have led to a nice student-to-student collaboration that have, in fact, led to very productive interactions. And you may want to follow that as well. The website is posted here by Soulemane. Do you guys all get it? Juami.org.
I see that.
Yeah. Okay. So check that out. And there's a lot of course, there's a limitation on budget limitation on how many people can get. But I know that the participation of Ethiopian students has been going up and down, but it's Africa really. It's not focused on one country, but participation from Ethiopia, I'm sure, would be welcome.
Excellent. Great.
So, Dr. Teferi, if I may just thank you all for having me today. I have a personal obligation I need to attend to. I'll leave you with Dr. Tess with all his wisdom. He's been a great mentor to me. I know he's been insisting on the young people, but some 20 plus years ago, when I first met him, I was kind of on the other side, and I learned a great deal from him. So I hope to see, maybe in 20 years to see somebody on the other side also working with me the same way I've worked with all these years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. I think it is time for our distinguished guests. We have to say goodbye. The event will follow, unless there is like a burning question you think you must ask. If not, we have to end it here, but we'll follow up with the rest of the workshop. Thank you, Professor Tessema.
Thank you very much. Both Soulemane and I are very grateful in participating in this workshop. You have our contact, and if you need us, please shout out. We'll be happy to help in any way we can, whether you are in Ethiopia or in the US. If you have questions about NSF, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be very happy to address and help you out.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sure a very successful day. I'm sorry, I have other commitment as well, and I have to go.
Thanks so much, Dr. Tessema and Soulemane.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof. Yeah.
And definitely we'd like to receive the slides, and I hope folks today here will follow up with you with questions, information, and networking among themselves.
happy to do that.
Yeah, thank you. So, Adane will continue with Dr. Ayalew.
Yes, yeah, we can go ahead and.
All right.
Ayalew, are you there? Oh, yeah, he's there. Yeah.
I am here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you make give him the privilege?
Thank you. I think he was on the way to Germany from Holland, and he has to stop somewhere and do this presentation. Thank you, Dr. Ayalew.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Adane. Can I share a screen, Dr. Teferi?
Adane will let you
Yeah,
do
you
that.
can. You can.
While Ayalew is preparing his to share. Dr. Fukru, I'm sorry I didn't see your question in time, but with Dr. Seid's office, we'll discuss this as a follow-up.
I am sharing my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we see it. And I guess Ayalew doesn't need introduction. He's doctor engineer at Wageningen University and a close friend, brother of mine, really a patriotic Ethiopian and true Wollo.
Thank you, Dr. Teferi. በጣም አመሰግናለሁ ለሁላችሁም። አማርኛ የማይናገር ሰው ስለሚኖር በእንግሊዝኛ ነው የሚሆነው። My name is Ayalew Kassahun. I am from Wageningen University. And thank you, Dr. Teferi, for a kind introduction. With Dr. Teferi and Dr. Adane and Dr. Seid, Dr. Endris, we have a lot of collaboration with Wollo University. So my presentation will not, first of all, I have to apologize. I was on my way from Wageningen to Rostock. I couldn't manage to reach there. So I came to Hamburg University, went to the Africa Institute, and I asked a random person, I need a room for this presentation. So sometimes, you know, you have to do these things. So I am sitting in somebody's room, and I have to present earlier and leave the room to the person. That's why I am presenting earlier than Dr. Adane. The second thing I want to say is my presentation is not necessarily on how to write a winning proposal, but it is about how to join a consortium. What do you need to join a consortium, to a collaboration program? So I have four points. I try to finish them in the coming 20-25 minutes. So there are 4 points I want to discuss. First of all, if you want to participate in a project, in a consortium, you have to understand your skill. What should be your potential role? That is very essential. Sometimes we forget it. Second, when you want to participate in a project and you want to respond to a call or join a consortium, you must understand what are the motives of the funding agencies. So I will be speaking from the European perspective. Probably the US perspective can be different. It is also important to be explicit about your own motivation for participation, because there can be many motivations for participating in a consortium. Third, of course, if you have done that, you have to identify the sources of funding. You will say a few things from the European perspective. And then finally, I want to touch about how do, if there is a call eventually, and if you have to write a proposal, how do you write? What are the things which you have to take care? And in that aspect, I hope we have experience with Dr. Seid, Dr. Awol, Dr. Endris. Probably they could join me in, giving their perspective. So in a project proposal, the first question is, what do you offer? I mean, you can't just join collaboration for nothing. As a researcher, it can be as a university, what can Wollo University offer? But also we should not forget, how does as a judge your value? Because, you know, you can join if the consortium members think that you can offer those things. So I have some, last week, make a quick list. It is not really based on research, but based on what I know. Of course, when you join a consortium or when you want to write a proposal, it depends on your competence. You say, I am capable, my university is capable of doing the research, the call, what is in the call. You can do research or participate because also you have a very good lab or a good experimental setup. In Europe, there are many research projects which have use cases. So if you are in a certain area where the topic involves research on, then you have, you know, a possibility to participate. The third is that you provide the problem context. The fourth is because you have an image, you know, from Wageningen University, sometimes you get can you participate in our consortium? Because, you know, Wageningen University has a good name that could be also a value. If you have a network and personal connections, that is very important. What we sometimes forget is that people collaborate with you because you are reliable and you are dependable. So reliability, dependability as a researcher, as an institution is an important factor. So I put it like a, you know, conceptual framework for this talk. These things are interrelated. Of course, one is interrelated with the other. I just want to go through them with some few examples. So when I thought about Wollo University, if I think about the European universities, what do they really expect from Wollo University? I think the greatest chance Wollo University has is that it provides a problem context. We have projects where Kenyans or Nigerians, they are part of the consortium because they are in that problem area. And the problem context of Wollo University is, of course, an African country. And within an African country, we are in Wollo, in Dese. And when I travel by plane over Wollo, these are the things I always look at. It just says a lot. Our people either live in the mountains or in the valleys, or it is in desert areas. There are many challenges the community, the society has, and Wollo University is located in that problem context. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have, you know, when you look at this from the plane, it looks like no trees, no green, but these are the areas around Dese. This is Alansha, and if you go to Garado or Haik, Wollo University is in the middle of, you know, in a mountain area where there are also fertile lands. Of course, I'm talking about agriculture. I'm from an agricultural university. So my examples would be in the agricultural and life sciences. There is another aspect, at least I know from our university and even from this institution where I'm sitting now in Hamburg. If you see Africa, the whole of it, most of it is a lowland desert. A few areas are mountainous. But if you see my mouse, where Wollo University sitting is just in an area where you can find almost all conditions, climatic conditions, which are found in Africa. It is a very essential point to be, you know, to be part of a project that it provides. Wollo University is sitting in a climatic zone where you can find from a desert to a highland. It is important to know. It is important to you to use it. Fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes Wollo University is located in Kombolcha and Desi. There is a new train connection if it is going to work in the near future. an industrial town, tissue culture center. These are essential areas when I introduce university. These are the things I tell to people, you know, it is a university located in essential infrastructures in the country. Sometimes we overlook it. Once I was taken a tour by Wollo University colleagues, and then I told them, let me take you on a tour of Dese because I'm born and grown up there, and took them to the Gebeyaw. And I'm sitting in a social sciences in Wageningen University, and we do social economic research, people's income and lifestyles. And that is a kind of problem context what Wollo University members, researchers can present about. So I heard few questions. How can we participate? How do we join a consortium? Not necessarily by writing the entire proposal or parts of a proposal, but presenting a problem context in which consortium deals with. So that is about the problem context where members of Wollo University can bring about, at least in my area of agriculture, life sciences. There are also other areas, other aspects, culture, music, fundamental research, health, the perspective of which the researchers can present a case of a region, an area in a research. The other aspect is, of course, there are good researchers at Wollo University, and it is becoming evident. I have left here a link to a research we recently did about research done. I think I'm sitting in somebody's office and the telephone is ringing. Excuse me, I think it will go off. Publication from Wollo University is increasing significantly. We research the scientific publication done on Wollo, but increasingly the research is being done by members of Wollo University. Let me try to get to switch off that phone.
Adane, I hope you are there to help, right?
Apologies for that. You know, if you interfere into somebody's office.
Yes, I'm here. Ayalew, there is no disturbance. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't hear the phone. Yeah.
Good. So that was about the first point. And the second point is understanding the motive for funding. That will lead me to the third point. And of course, understanding of your own motivation, but I will not delve into that. I have a quick question for you. It's not for you to answer, but to think about it. Why would the European Union sponsor Wollo University on research? Is it because the EU has a hidden agenda, or because research is practically a form of exploitation, and there are so many other things I listed? It is very essential to think about why does a country or a region like European Union sponsor research? Of course, we have limited time. We could have discussed about this, but an essential element, at least from what I know, is the EU has agreed or has a commitment in discussion with African Union. It can be at the United Nations, and those are the reasons which lead to calls for proposals. Sometimes it is a pressure from the citizens. I will give you a few examples. In most of the calls at the European Union, even the Netherlands, you have to respond to some of the Sustainable Development Goals. It is the agreements made at the United Nations summits where certain goals are defined that some projects are sponsored. For example, the Netherlands has promised to end hunger for 20 million people, and they have a budget for it. And if there is a good call, if there is even a good initiative, they will respond to that because that is a commitment they have made. But at the European Union level, these commitments have been made, or at the United Nations level. You probably may not be much aware of it. The conference of the parties, the COP conferences, it is being held every year. Agreements are being made between nations. And from those agreements, certain commitments will come. And those commitments will lead, among other things, research proposal calls. The European Union has every 6-7 years a review of its research agenda, research and innovation strategy of 2020-2024 has certain requirements. And one of its requirements is that it says Europe in the world. Europe must be competitive in the world. And because of that, a number of projects have been, a number of calls have been initiated. I have now a project called Food Safety for Africa. That is part of it. There is the EU trade, in which we submitted a proposal that is part of that strategic agenda. A good example could be the Dutch. The Dutch has a National Science Foundation-like organization. It's called NWO. I think many people know it. But there is also the Dutch Research Agenda. The Dutch Research Agenda is initiated by a public initiative. The public submitted many calls, and people organized those calls into themes, and those themes have led to research funding, and there is a whole lot of money within that. Some of it is about international collaboration. So the funding agencies have they are not coming up for calls just like that. There is a very good reason for it, and understanding those reasons allows you to write a proposal which is fitting those purposes. So if we see that, then in that perspective from the EU, at least from my own perspective, it's not a complete list. I want to touch on some research funding possibilities. The biggest funding possibilities within Europe is what is called Horizon Europe. I think it has a budget of around 60-70 billion euro, stretched over 7 years, and some of it is for international collaboration. The Europe has also a kind of a neighborhood program, what they call a neighborhood program, Europe Aid. We have submitted a concept called with Wollo University. We have some experience with that. There is the Erasmus Plus for education, training, youth, and sport. And there are national NGO university funding. So if you look at the Horizon Europe, it has 3 pillars. One is for excellent science. Pillar 2 is global challenges. Global challenges meaning making the European Union competitive in the world. The third is innovative Europe. Out of the 3, the second pillar is relevant for Wollo University or global collaboration. And those have clusters. There are 6 clusters. The first one is on health. The second is on culture. And there are the digital industry and civil security and society. I have highlighted cluster 6 because that is where I personally and my university often participates, because we are a life sciences university. And that's where we have one of the examples I want to talk about. Sometimes it is good to look for calls for proposals, not only that because you want to write, but you want to participate. If I have given you a link for searching for funding for calls within the European Union, within the Horizon program. And it is good to look for in your topic. I mean, if you are in the agriculture and food area, you can look for agriculture, food, and there are always some calls. And then if you know the calls, then you can reach out to people that you want to participate in those calls. The other one is the NDICI, what is called Europe Aid. We submitted a concept note with Wollo University. Unfortunately, we couldn't proceed because of some technical problems. There is even a call, a relevant call, which is for Ethiopia, which is for that conflict area, which Wollo University actually can respond to. This is a very promising funding source for Wollo University. If you go to the website, the links I showed you, you will see that I think the one on the top is about Ethiopia post-conflict medical and mental health and psychological health. It is about Ethiopia, it is about survivors. It is something which Wollo University, especially those in the health sciences, can respond to. And regularly calls come about Ethiopia here. The Erasmus Plus program had calls. I couldn't find any open calls, but we have a proposal submitted with Wollo University. This is about education, improving your curriculum, exchange of staff and students. That kind of projects fit in Erasmus Plus calls. So if you go to the website, the links are here. I will share the slides. You can go to opportunities for organizations. And there are also opportunities for individuals, opportunities for organizations. I couldn't find an open call at the moment, but that's where you look at the possibilities with Erasmus+. So before I finish, let's say you find a call. And how do you respond? How do you respond to that call? If you are in a consortium with European partners, usually the European partners take a lead in writing, simply because they have experience. Probably you have a minor role. But if you have to lead, then you have to you have to know how to respond. I want to give you an example. This is, for example, a call which came out last year, fair, healthy, environmental friendly food systems for primary products and consumption. This was a call. It came out in collaboration with the African Union. It is part of the European cluster program on collaborations. Engaging the world. And in the call, usually, there are, especially if it is in Europe, expected outcomes. For example, it says here, proposals are expected to address the following. You have to read them, and you have to respond to them directly. For example, if it is about Ethiopia, it is no point talking about general information about Ethiopia. There are the people who write the call, they know already the problem. So they are asking for someone to come up with a solution for the items. So in our proposal, the proposal which has won, we have gone step by step for each requirement, probably not copying the text directly. For example, the first says, contribute to a better understanding of food safety in the informal sector by generating this text. Okay, our specific objective is gain a better understanding of the role of food safety by analyzing enabling environment for local value chains in the informal sector. And we define key performance indicators, work packages related to that, tasks related to that. So one by one, we respond to the demands of the call. That is very essential. This is, for example, for the second requirement, and then we have specific objective too, that is related to the second aspect of the requirement of the call. So you have to respond directly to the demands of the call. Of course, that's not the only thing you do. You probably come up with a conceptual framework, which how things are interrelated. That is essential. I think Adane will go in depth into how to deal with the research excellence. It is an essential part of it, but my point here is you have to respond to the requirements directly. There is one thing I talked about in the beginning. If you are in, if there is a call and if it is a large call, you don't have to write a proposal, but you have to know how to join that consortium. For example, in our proposal, there are a number of African partners. Why do they participate? Like I say here, some of them, they have the image, for example, the African Union. Some of them, they can provide, I think many of them, they provide a context for the research. For example, it is about food safety, there should be use cases, and they offer the use cases. But how did they offer the use cases? The individual researchers have a network. Some of them, they studied at our universities. Some of them, like said before, they joined the conference, but it is good to build a network. And that is very essential. Some of them are perceived to be reliable. For example, some of the partners from the Ghana, people say, oh, they deliver, or they deliver. And it is good to have that, that image. So the network and personal connections, the problem context you define is essential. Reliability and dependability, that people see you as reliable, is important. Sometimes you may not have the image. If you are IITA, international organization, African Union, international organization, they have image. Another example on how to write is we submitted a concept call for improving food security in Ethiopia with Wollo University. I think we had a very good consortium in that. And so we also wrote a good concept note. But and for that, the factors for success is Wollo University is in the middle of the problem, which was defined for security in a conflict area. So the problem context was directly relevant for Wollo University. One thing on which we failed was that only one organization can apply for a specific, for this call. So not two researchers, three researchers can apply. And I think some colleagues from some universities didn't know that. They applied, they were in two consortium, in three consortiums. And because of that, we were disqualified. So my message here is know the rules. If you put a lot of effort to write a proposal and you are disqualified by, you know, not following the rules, that is a very sad situation. So there is at the moment a call, probably relevant for Wollo University, maybe in partnership with the health institutes, which people can really write a proposal about. I hope they will give it a try. And this is more or less quick, but my presentation, Dr. Teferi, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ayalew. I already received several questions one of them asking for your PowerPoints. Please share your PowerPoints with Dr. Adane or Dr. Seid so that people can follow with those links and consider also your advice. Thank you so much. I like the clarity, and folks, Dr. Ayalew is making this presentation while on road trip. I think big round of applause for that. Thank you, Ayalew.
Thank you.
We are about 10 minutes behind schedule. We're supposed to have a biological break at this point. But I suggest, because Ayalew is on the road, just some questions for him, and then we'll break for a few minutes. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So we have already a hand, Dr. Seid.
Yeah. Yeah. Should I continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much, brothers. And then Dr. Ayalew, it is the state of the art, tailored. And then thank you so much for giving us, I mean, yeah, this lecture. Very much. Thank you. It answered a lot of questions from our side. So one question that I have, for example, I've been working in Europe with many brothers and professors in different universities. And then I used to get a call from, from the website. I used to receive a calls, for example, like the one you introduced. It could be from Horizon, it could be Erasmus Plus, or it could be from specific governmental agencies, for example, from the Danish government or foreign affairs. Yeah. So the problem I used to face is that when I try to contact somebody else, while reading the call, they decline because of because of time. Most of the time due to the time. So they used to advise me to start it for the next year. So in such cases where we have some networks and to engage and work with such people, for example, like you, our brothers, when should we start developing the problem context and then keep in touch with someone else whom we thought he can collaborate or he can be a partner with us? When should be the time?
Yeah. Thank you, Seid. I'm sure these are, big time questions, and they require more follow-up and a bit of more systematic exploration. But let's gather more questions before Ayalew, heads back to this road. Some more questions, please. I don't see any on the chat list or the question answer feature. Maybe it's so clear. Definitely, the slides, we'll get them from Dr. Ayalew and we'll make them available for you to share. Ayalew, would you like to address Dr. Seid's question?
Yes, Dr. Seid, thank you very much for your questions. It is not only for you, but for us, it's not easy on when to engage in a call. It depends. If it is, for example, the European Union calls, our university has business developers, and usually they get a draft version before anyone else. I mean, before the whole world gets the list of the calls. So there are a few people who have some information, so we can ask them. If it is the Dutch national call, the NWO calls, they are very friendly. Usually you can ask them by email, by call. Their telephone number and phone numbers is available. So if we call from within the Netherlands, they will respond. Generally, they respond in detail. If you reach out to the European Union call from Africa, from Ethiopia, probably if it is for Erasmus Plus, you may get a delay. You have to understand the European Union is a very bureaucratic organization. It's not always easy. We have a liaison office, and we use that to get an answer, not from European Union directly, because of this problem. I don't know the experience of the Danish and other countries, but usually in national programs, the best thing is just to collaborate with someone which is in that country, a Danish person or a Dutch person, if it is in the Netherlands, who have a direct or a liaison office which can access the.
Please mute.
Did I answer your question, Seid?
Very clearly. It is a state-of-the-art lecture. Thank you so much, brother. Yeah.
Thank you.
Presentation. Dr. Adane, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Yeah.
So our next presentation will be by our own Dr. Adane Gebeyaw. And Adane will be speaking about grants in general. Well, doesn't need much introduction, but he has extensive experience in the area of education, including institutional collaboration. Before coming to the United States or pursuing his PhD, I must say, Adane has worked in different capacities, including as very impressive as high school director in different high schools. So he knows what we lack, what we have. So I'm personally looking forward to his presentation. If you have any question, keep asking, like you can use the chat feature. You can also use the question and answer feature. Or of course, by the end of the presentation, we'll have also some time allocated for you to ask. So Adane, the floor is yours. I'm so excited to welcome you here as a presenter.
Thank you so much, Dr. Teferi. Thank you. Okay. Well, when I prepared this presentation, I was the first to speak, but Dr. Tessema and Dr. Ayalew had other commitments. They can't stay and they have to present first. Mine is very fundamental, especially for those young researchers. This can be very important information. So I will start from the big tab, and it's not also about a research grant. It could be also any project grant. It could be a development grant, or to buy instruments, or let's say to support the community as part of your community engagement. So it's very fundamental. I'll try to give you some information so that you can do more research at grant writing. So let me start with the most important thing that, let me say a few things about my experience. I worked in administration and institutional research in higher ed, and I work with professors who write grant proposals, submit grant proposal, and report on the performance of their grants. So from that experience, what I see is clearly defining the problem in the issue when people submit grant proposals. And I work also for non-profit organizations by different government and non-government agents. I see that is very critical. So when we say grant budgets, in the first place, the government regular budget may not fund everything we need. There are always some gaps. There are always needs that cannot be covered by government budgets. like for instance, especially in the Ethiopian case. So these grant-funded projects can be run by outside funders like international organizations, embassies, or it could be corporate organizations or big research funding institutions like NSA. So the purpose of grant is for research. As I said, it could be development projects. For instance, in Wollo area, how do you support displaced people? You may write a grant proposal, then support. So why is it important for university professors? I think as part of your mission as a government university, you need to engage with the community. It's a reciprocal process. You work with the community, you provide something to the community, and you learn from the community, and you develop your research skill, and again, you support back the community. To do that, it's not only just the kind of research we talked about so far, but you can also engage in various projects that can support the local community. So this grant writing is all about that too. So when you say problem, there is a current state.
Dr. Adane, the slides are not moving. Yes. Now.
Yeah, when we say problem, usually, we have to clearly define the current state, where we are now, what's the situation now, and where would we want to go. Okay, that's the desired state. In between, there might be some barriers or some situations that bar you from the current state to the desired state. That barrier or gap is the problem. Could you please mute with, I don't know, somebody speak.
So I have to cut them here. Yosef or Dinku, please unmute.
Yeah, so when you say problem, that's, can you mute, please?
I'm trying.
Oh, okay. Let me see on my side if I can.
Continue.
So we have to clearly understand what the problem is that we want to address. It's not only the problem, who is going to be the beneficiaries. Funders don't fund researchers. They don't care about the institution. They care about the beneficiaries. Who is benefiting at the end? That's also very critical when you define the problem. Let's say the local community in this area or Grado area, how impactful is your project, or to change the lives of, to improve the lives of those people in the area. That's very critical when you write a grant proposal. And as I said earlier, the grant proposal can be started by, let's say, soliciting information about the funding opportunity from an organization, or sometimes it can be unsolicited. The funding agencies, the grant makers, they can release requests for proposal. They post a call on their website. You can go there and start the grant writing process. So, as I said, it could be the existing gap between the state and the desired state. And the other important thing is we have to recognize that problem as a problem. You know, when we describe the problem statement in the could be a research proposal or project that can be funded by external agencies, we have to show them also that this problem has been recognized by the community as an important and key problem that inhibits the community from progressing forward. And you have to also, when I say you, I mean those of us who write the grant proposal, we have to explain the complexity and the challenge problem. I will explain that later. And also it's good to show how important and urgent is that thing. Why this time? Why that issue preferably is important to be addressed? That has to be clearly stated. And the other one, as I said, it's good to spend enough time defining the problem, understanding the problem, like by reading about that issue, you know, doing at least some preliminary kind of research so that you can understand that problem very well by talking to people and by doing some form of assessment. It's a foundation for the rest of the research proposal. Understanding and defining this problem is key because the rest of the proposal, like the project description, the evaluation, you know, the budget, everything will depend on clear definition of the problem. So it has to be clearly defined. Well, let me give you what are the steps to identify problems. As I said, observation. Let's say we can go to the Berhanu area or Guebre area or Wageningen area, and you observe the situation, and you learn, you know, that there are problems. And the other, you can discuss with people and get more information also, discussion with the stakeholders. And the other one, which is really very important, is root cause analysis. Why that happens. For instance, if they, I will come to one example. In Wollo area, there is high prevalence rate of goiter. When I work there, sometimes in a school, we observe that and we ask, why is that? Oh, they don't get enough iodine. Why? Only the salt lacks iodine, or is there any other thing? While they eat, you know, cereals or crops that grow in a very eroded land degradation. So what? When the land is degraded, it will lose its iodine content, and the crops that grow in that area will be iodine deficient. Okay. So by asking why, you can pinpoint the root cause of the problem. So you can say, okay, then you can very well articulate your problem starting from that. Let's say if you want to develop a project that will help to minimize the prevalency rate of goiter, for instance, you can go to the root cause and explain it very well so that it can make meaning, and the funders will be interested to fund your project because you are helping probably millions of people who are affected that way. So you can articulate the problem. Now, let me give you some research problem examples. Great. Yeah, here, let me start with a service project. With a service project, for instance, there are a high number of internally displaced people in the region, in X region. So your objective would be to provide psychological support to the IDPs by establishing a support center near their camp. You identify the problem, and then you can also write the objective of your proposal based on that clearly defined problem. For instance, in education, low pass rate in Maths 101. I don't know if there is Maths 101 in Ethiopia, but basic maths, at least the first year maths course. For that, for instance, your research question would be, what factors contribute to the low rate of Maths 101? Or how can instructional design impact students' rate of success? So, establishing the question, understanding the problem very well can help you to establish a good research question. For instance, it could be in engineering, an efficiency of traditional plows in Ethiopia. Everybody say, well, we have been using this for thousands of years, we didn't improve it. But it's good to do research also why they use that. So the research question would be, what are the current limitations of the traditional, maybe to know the problem more, and then how can the design will improve it? That could be a good research question. So from the problem, we can develop the research question, or it could be followed by a research hypothesis. One thing very important when you develop a grant proposal or a research grant proposal is it's a huge job. It needs a lot of time and effort. Should you jump into directly writing the proposal, or should you at least first prepare something, develop something that can help you to assess your ability if you can apply for that grant proposal? Why I'm saying is that sometimes you spend weeks or the whole month working on that research grant proposal, but it may not make sense. So what I personally learned on the job is at least come up with 1 or 2 pages of these things, the following, the key components of a grant proposal. It's very generic. It could be for an essay, or it could be for European institution. The first one is the project rationale. What is the problem? Why is it a problem that needs to be addressed? How is it significant? It has to be clearly articulated, at least in 2-3 lines. If you can put that, that's very important. So you can use this project idea kind of worksheet. Well, and then what's your goal? What do you want to achieve? Do you know exactly what you want to achieve? Write that down. Then the project objective. The project objectives follow the project goal. This is more kind of smart objective that in a measurable term, in a quantified term, you can put also the objectives following the goals. And then in a very concise manner, what's the project description? What are the things that you're gonna do step by step? What are the major activities? If it's a research method, if it's a research project, what's your research method? Or how do you collect data, analyze? And then the cost and financing, how much it can cost at least in bulk. And then what's the personnel need? How many people will you hire, or will you use the internal staff already there? And how is the project gonna be organized? Will it be organized under the institution? For instance, is it gonna be under Wollo University, or is it gonna be a separate kind of organization? For instance, do you work with another institution? You know, those kind of things be thought out very well at the beginning. And then clearly the evaluation aspect, it has to be evaluated. Any project has to be evaluated. It has to have an evaluation component embedded inside the grant, you know, starting from the input until you reach the outcome. It has to be clearly evaluated. So what are the steps? Just, you don't have to write a long list. At least what are the points under this? Then the implementation period. And the other one, for most grant proposals, important is how will that project be sustained? You don't anymore get that grant. Let's say you've been funded for 3 years. What's going to happen after 3 years for that project? Will it be completed and accomplish everything and then stop there, or will there be other way to sustain that activity, that kind of support? So it's if you can come up with this, then you can target funding organizations later and expand that based on their request for proposal or a call for, let's say, research or what. So this is just kind of worksheet. Important here is, if you are trying to develop a grant proposal, or especially for development projects or community support projects, you should collect some data. At least, you know, what's the number of people affected by that problem? Let's say if it's internally displaced, how many people have been internally displaced? Maybe to put them by gender, age, or the reasons why they were displaced. At least basic facts like that ones would help you to make your problem clear and appeal to the funding agencies. In the US universities, there is an office called Institutional Research. The professors work with the Institutional Research Office because that office always collects data, like, for instance, students' profile, students' performance, or the committee in the area. Similarly, I don't know in Ethiopia what's the office that, you know, collect this kind of data in the universities, in Ethiopian universities, but you need to work with someone who has the data. Then if your proposal is backed by, you know, valid data, then you'll have a better chance. One other thing that most grant funders sometimes, I see this in many requests for proposals, they say put the problem and the, you know, the objective and the goals of your grant proposal in a logic model. This is what they call it, the logic model. That it's simply a kind of systemic approach. You know, it starts from the input and then the output. Let's say what are the inputs? Let's say the personnel, the material, the equipment, whatever. And then what are the output? For instance, you conduct workshops, provide training, and who reach, let's say, the faculty, the staff, or the community in the area, and then followed by the outcome. What are the impacts you're making? Did you improve their learning skills, or did they develop some, let's say, skills in maintaining their houses, or what? And then what's the long-term impact? How much did you change the socio-economic life of the individuals in that area? So this can help you to articulate your problem better and connect it with the desired outcome in your project. Okay, and the other thing.
Adane, I hate to say this, but we are running out of time. Can you
okay, no, I'm finishing.
Yeah.
I'm finishing. I'm sorry. Okay. The other thing we didn't discuss probably here is the budget. A few things about budget. Definitely, we need to put a budget for personnel. Probably important here to mention, when you talk about let's say personnel budget, how much % of the time is spent on that project? Let's say if someone makes 8,000 and then 25% of that time is spent for this project, then the 25% of his salary will be covered by this project. If there, I don't think in Ethiopia we talk about fringe benefits. And then you calculate the budget, personnel budget, and then the equipment, supplies, travels, also you mentioned that. And then last part of the budget is the budget justification. Why you hire that person? To do what? Why you buy that, let's say, laptop? To do what? You have to put that in the budget justification. That's what mostly needed. And there is also what's called direct and indirect cost. That could be difficult to understand there, because let's say Wollo University provide you office to conduct that research. That the cost of the office is what's called the indirect cost. The direct cost is directly what you pay. Answer. I have more slides. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. This is really more than I thought. There is a lot to chew for all of us, you know, the basics, the fundamentals, and it is hard to get funding unless you know the fundamentals. Thank you for that, Dr. Adane. You may stop sharing the screen.
Okay.
Yeah. In the interest of time, I think we'll do like a back-to-back presentation. Dr. Selesh, are you there? Dr. Selesh, if you are
I'm here. I am
ready.
Here. Yes, Dr. Teferi, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
The floor is yours. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this presentation, actually. A SWOT analysis and preparation tips for winning research projects by our own Dr. Diallo. And go ahead, please, Dr. Seleshi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Teferi, and the entire organizing team. I'm afraid I might have to disappoint you because I have adjusted a little bit of it after I saw the outline. So it's still involving the strengths and weaknesses, opportunities, and some of the threats that I think can be mitigated towards, let's say, effective proposal grant winning or application. The previous speakers did really well in terms of comprehensive presentation of, I think, the US, the European, as well as just the writing in detail. Mine will be more of a case study, let's say, with some of the projects that we, let's say, I got awarded with the local universities, how we did it, and what were my observations, basically. So this is more of a bit inflated when I say it's a SWOT analysis. I think this is more of a SWOT from my perspective. It's a personal reflection in that sense. Just to tell you a bit, this is my background. I'm a computer science, information systems background, and I have a bachelor in that. And I went into hydroinformatics type of computing and then environment and so on. So I work more data-driven type of modeling analysis, mainly in the water, but also across the entire, let's say, interdisciplinary environment domain. In that sense, from big data, remote sensing, AI, and those and their application for better decisions in the environment and so on. So this is the adjustment, basically. I like to give you some of the projects that we are currently working on, how we got them, how we started, and some of the partnership we picked up, and what is being contributed by locals. And from there, I think some of the, as I say, the SWOT kind of analysis, you can call it, that I did. This is based on a very personal reflection, as I pointed out. One was I want to highlight these two projects particularly. One was is in fact the remote sensing for community applications with RS4C. This is the use of remote sensing data, for example, from satellites at a local level. Well, I'll tell you the objective of the project, but I think more interestingly, my interest focuses more on how we link the science with the locals and what catches the interests of the donors and so on. Another is on EPIC. This is operationalizing equity. This is justice, fairness, and so on, which is a social domain philosophy, into perspective in irrigation systems design, which is engineering basically. So this is more of where my emphasis is in terms of do they meet in terms of socioeconomic and the engineering side of things. With the first project, the RS4C project, this is the Water Development and Partnership Project funded by the Dutch government, let's say. So this is more of the Dutch Foreign Office, Foreign Affairs Office fund, a national fund in a way, which is coordinated by an institution, the IT Development Institution. If you see the partnership, you see several of them being from different countries. Very well. I couldn't remove it somehow. So you see that we are leading from IIT, academia, and then NGOs and community service organizations, and government included in some parts of the continent in Africa. So what I want to highlight here is this is a 1.5 million euro budget, but divided over many institutions, as you can see. For an institution that might not be much. But this is just the discussions the previous speakers were highlighting in terms of networking, outreach, and partnership formation. It's very important that whoever you meet in a network workshop or somewhere in a scientific gathering, you exchange emails. You don't have to know personally too much, but their research, and then create sort of partnership for a call. In this sense, I barely know much of this partnership. Let's say we are organizing from IG, but we know maybe one person per institution, or somebody knows someone else. So third level, second level kind of networking is important. So how did the ideas start? For example, for the remote sensing application, I did a small volunteer trip to Bahardar University related to water hyacinth infestation. That was just some of the seeds we planted, let's say. And the write-up was when I visited Wollo University later on, a couple of years later, with Dr. Ayalew and Dr. Seid, other who participated at Wollo University, where I had also the pleasure of meeting Dr. Teferi there. As you know, I'm sure water hyacinth is a big agenda and a big issue on water levels from Lake Tana, but also many other water bodies in Ethiopia and Africa, tropical areas. I not hear so much about it, but in Coca, for example, or in Lake Suwai and others, there's this would as well. While it was a big, threat, environmental threat, you don't see projects popping up every now and then. So I volunteered in kind of a small IOM trip, the National Organization for Migration, for just observation. Behind me is where the lake lies normally. This is the dry water hyacinth. When the water is high, then this will be flooded. So this is familiar, I'm pretty sure, for most of you. And the cow behind the boy, probably you see it. There is a socio-economic complexity here. I'm not a social scientist, but I think you can see some benefits. There is trade-off playing out here. Some people would like the wheat probably because animals are grazing. It looks nice in terms of flower. So the removal is like this, a machine, manual, they remove it, they dump it just by the side. The seed dries and goes back when the water is high, and it gets worse than before because the seeds go disperse wide apart when the water is high. So the challenge is obvious, but it's not necessarily always a threat. I don't believe it's being observed as a threat by everyone. And why? Because there are benefits as well, as you can see it already in the picture. It's easy to say, let's just eradicate water hyacinth, but the reality should be grounded in some way. Does it have benefit as well? In any case, we kind of mapped where the locations of which were, together with the local environmental agency, local universities at Bahardar. And then, of course, this idea, we wanted to kind of find grant for it, the research grant. And usually the development type of grant is what is common, which is give us money and we eradicate water hyacinth. In science and research kind of funding, this is very difficult to say. I don't think, the previous speakers already pointed out, why do institutions care to donate or to write a grant? What do they get? what does it mean? What is the theory of change? What I mean, we give you money, the water hygiene is eradicated. What does it mean? So those kind of theories of change will contribute this one, and the change will be like this and continuously, those kinds of linkage were, let's say, not so strong, and we wanted to link up with this. I'll tell you a bit more later. The second one is about EPIC, we call it. This is more about equity in irrigation schemes. What happens, for those of you who don't know more about this kind of background, in irrigation schemes, particularly in, let's say, institutional, these large-scale schemes, when the water joins the canal, the upstream farmers get more water, whereas the downstream farmers or plots get less water, let's say. But when it is also groundwater related, then that means the groundwater abstraction could deplete much of the water, and so on and so on. Technically, I will not go so much into it. But the partnership here is limited. It's medium scale, 400,000 euro, not so much in terms of research between many partners. This is the collaboration between Ethiopia, Tanzania, and India, as well as our institutes. So you can see one particularly CSO from Ethiopia, the WU-DAG, which is Wollo Development and then Entrepreneurship Trust, which we have founded at some point as a community service organization, environmental advocacy. That was also with a small participation joining this, and I like to highlight why. So based on this personal reflection, this is a bit inflated when I say SWOT. That's why I mentioned earlier. Personally, some of the strengths, some of the weaknesses, some of the opportunities and threats I observed at Wollo University together, some of them institutional, others personal and individual. But I am sure some of the lessons could be drawn about the rest as well. So what I observe as, I think, strength is energetic leadership at Wollo University, at Berhanu University. My experience has been that the leadership really is energetic. They show up in every small meeting, which is a big commitment in spite of the many schedules and activities. And they have a desire to engage further, widen up the network. That was a very strong point. I think that really means everything. When something has to be signed, they sign quite fast. And when a meeting tomorrow requires some presence, they show up, and that was very strong. I had a very positive experience both at Wollo and Berhanu. There are also, particularly on environmental studies, which is the talk that I'm giving. There are very well experienced researchers, senior researchers. They have been there in the domain, and they know the inside out. That's also really good strengths. And most of Ethiopia, basically, we are in a very. It has been said, I think, by Dr. Ayalew, that the siting where we sit as a university, we have regional, let's say, opportunities. It can fall into opportunities, basically these kind of things, but I have it here. Unique ecological, geographic, and resources locally. If you see, for example, Wollo University, from the environmental point of view, it's a very uniquely situated university. There is the lowland where there are pastoralists. There is a highland where there are mountain kind of living in terms of ecosystems as well. But also, I mean, what is flood? What is a high rainfall on upstream? is the same challenge downstream. Sometimes you have flood, and other times you have drought. Would it be different if we have the structures in the upstream for the lower stream, and so on and so on? So the religious and multicultural kind of settings in many parts of the country is also interesting, not necessarily from I think I shifted my window on intentionally. Do you see my screen?
Your voice is getting a little lower and lower.
Yeah, we see your screen, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Something is happening to my computer. Sorry for the inconvenience. Okay.
Are you taking the slides out?
Can you see it now, Dr. Teferi?
No, it's great.
I'm afraid no.
Okay, I will stop and share again.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I hope it is visible now.
It appears coming.
Oh.
No.
I see a message saying it's paused. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Do you see it now?
I'm
All
afraid not.
I'll just speak in that case, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for this. I'll just continue. From the strengths, then I think most universities are young. That's also another opportunity from what I see. Younger universities, not necessarily very matured, long-standing universities, but there's, from the European part particularly, a kind of desire to fund younger universities. Some of the project sources, the funding sources Ayalew mentioned, can qualify for those. So all of these are, for me, strengths that the local universities as well as individuals from those universities could qualify for. Overall, then it's for me a recognition of this. Do we recognize this in our proposal and try to sell them as our strengths? Can we situate ourselves to that? I think that's our strengths. On the weakness, there is a lack of interdisciplinarity. I think I presented this in Wollo University as well. We are usually more often than not thinking in terms of disciplinary mindset. I think that is a bit past, I would say. Disciplinarity is very important, but project and life is not. So that we have to meet at some point into and frame the project as interdisciplinary, I would say. For example, computer science and environmental science, they come together and create a model, which is a software about the environment. Otherwise, there is no meeting point. And that happens less in our context, I would say. Another weakness, I think, is probably more of a threat, is a short-term engagement. Researchers from this side, from the European side, at least, I am sure also from the US, our point of view, they like a longer-term engagement, setting up team, networking, and working on projects is meant to be not only for the lifetime of that project, but also it takes a lot of time for developing such networks. Usually, those kinds of
Darsaling, please mute.
views. I think on the other hand, you are probably aware of this. There is a lack of female leads, the lead researchers. Generally, gender balance is a big topic on the much of the projects from the European Union. That can be also, weaknesses in many institutions in Ethiopia. There is limited CSO involved. The community service organizations usually are not necessarily researchers, but they have contribution. They engage the community. They know how to speak to the community, but Seid, the university, is not really well engaged with those together to form a kind of partnership. And it's a very big agenda on this side. And many countries onboard government officers and just NGOs who are actually talking to, linked with the grassroots. That is the strength. I think not many of them are aware on this type, I'm afraid, but creating one could be also. I think that was the motivation we SWOT. There is a tendency to be, from my experience, to be overly technical. Proposals are to be read by every individual, not necessarily a technician on the same field. Some of them are, in fact, very technical, the calls, but mostly this, development project type of funding, they are usually to be read by non-technical people as well. And we tend to be too technical and we miss the storyline, the narrative. This has been highlighted earlier. For example, if we talk about pastoralists in Afar, rather than saying Afar and pastoralists and so on, what is unique about those in a very small area? It can be in the Muhie or the Awash, some part of it. What is the day-to-day challenge of those farmers or pastoralists? That makes it so important for this project to be funded and granted. And of course, partnership, it's growing, but most institutions lack in this in Ethiopia. Opportunity-wise, we have a whole lot of wide opportunity, I would say. One, we are environmental hotspots, the environmental science at least. Hotspot in a sense, there is drought, there is flood, there is food insecurity. And what is actually a challenge is an opportunity for science, ironically. In that sense, the more environmental challenge we live in, I think for science or researchers, there is an opportunity to really highlight also those challenges and to, in fact, be challenged as well. And there is a growing attention to more early career researchers, early career or in combination with more senior staff and younger institutions as well. So I think there is a need for recognizing those as opportunities and leverage them. In terms of trade, I don't know whether this is very something we can solve as easily, but some of the things I see are there's a growing competition for fund, and the funds are usually limited. There are, at least in Europe, kind of radicalized political parties and so on. They want to limit research funding to developing countries or emerging countries. Those kinds of things can be threats in terms of funding, so the competition is rather high. The grants are also shifting into a business model, which means, research has to situate itself to be more of an application. Okay, I start with this project. At the end of the day, can a company come and take over and make it a business out of it? Or those kinds of research are increasing. Of course, the local situations where you can move and take sample and so on, they don't allow these kinds of things currently. This hopefully has a solution at some point, but this also shifts funding to other regions. Other regions in a sense like Kenya or other Eastern Africa, for example, in this focus. And this could be some of the threats that I see. I think overall, my emphasis is on the challenges and opportunities. In terms of challenge, I want to highlight the interdisciplinary, the lack of interdisciplinarity, and kind of the individual, more individual efforts rather than teamwork and longer term. Let's work it together from different departments and see a problem, a case study from A to Z on the long run. Let's say 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Those kinds of visions for several factors are lacking, and I hope those can be supported by institutions in that sense. Gender inclusiveness, reading some of the staff, giving priority to some of them for a longer term effort. On the other hand, we are also discouraged just with one single experiment of applying for a proposal and getting discouraged. I think that's we had to apply 20 to get 2 probably here as well. It's good to learn that there are a lot of failures in grant applications, but the same grant that the proposal we wrote can be reused every time, so that shouldn't be recreated, I would say. On the opportunities from what I saw already, ambitious institutions usually, and a lot of SDG points are the sustainable development agendas are in our region. So there is more opportunity on that. So the final, you don't see my screen, but finally what I wanted to say was environment, the environment operates in tandem together, at least from many challenges. The water, the earth, the forest ecology and ecosystems and so on. They treat each other. One problem reflects on the other, but also one opportunity reflects on the other. In that sense, we should also work together from multiple disciplines, and cross-disciplinary interdisciplinarity makes a whole lot of sense in project proposal applications. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Selesh. I was a bit nervous about time, but we are okay, I guess. Professor Berhanu, have any suggestion, or shall we continue with the next one and then go back to bit question and answer and then conclude? I'm seeking your advice as
I think it's a good idea to continue with the presentations, make them as short as possible, and then have one Q&A session.
Okay, excellent. I hope you will all stick out with us. So the last one is actually my own presentation. And this should be really quick. I'm trying to share. Did you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, interesting. It comes up on a different. Yeah. I hope I won't take much of your time, but just to share from my own experience of grant submission to the U.S. National Science Foundation and also other funding agencies. As some of you know, I work for an agency called HRAF, which stands for Human Relations Area Affairs here at Yale. It is an old institution. We just celebrated our 75th anniversary, actually. And it is a research institution that specializes on the cross-cultural understanding of what it means to be human, basically. We have this term human relation, but stands for how humans relate to one another. Let's say through marriage, neighborhood, kinship, or artificial kinship, you name it. Just all strands of culture through which humans relate to one another. My presentation will just have three things. The first one, my own engagement in grant funding research. The second, I'll present two examples. One, a success story where we got a jackpot, basically, big pot of money. The other one, not a total failure, but not that much a success. I'll tell you what I mean. And then probably a couple of things by way of takeaways from my experience. This is just very reflection on my personal experience, not really an authoritative presentation on grants or grant sources. So you remember Professor Tessema was saying this morning, in US, funding sources are not limited to National Science Foundation. There are other funding agencies too. So my first grant here, the one I'm presenting, is actually from the US Department of Defense. They have a program called Minerva. I don't know what the abbreviation stands for, but this one is from Minerva 1, social implications of environmental change. You might say, what the Defense Department has got to do with environmental change, but eventually they care about basic science, applied science related to environmental change. So this is a grant which we received before I left for the Fulbright award to Ethiopia. It continues to, well, my share of the work was on hold. I'm currently working on it. So it is a big grant. I'm not the principal investigator here, but a senior researcher with a big task in it. Before that, I was on an NSF grant. Actually, that is a success case I want to mention. A grant that ran for about 4 years, and it was on climate-related hazards, disasters, and cultural transformation. The principal investigator from Yale was Carol Ember. Those of you in anthropology may know her from her textbook, which is pretty much like largely subscribed in Introduction to Anthropology class. I'll come back to this because the project is interesting for its multidisciplinary element to Michel Gelfand, his famous psychologist, Eric Jones, another anthropologist, and Peter Bergreen, a psychologist. Before that, I was also involved in a research, another research. This time I was a co-PI, and we investigated cultural models of nature across cultures. My part was writing Highland Ethiopian people's perception of nature and the environment. It was a fun project from NSF Behavioral and Cultural Science program. We actually got a lot of publication out of that project, including a book chapter I wrote for a well-received book called Cultural Models of Nature and the Environment. Well, before that, I think I need to mention this one. I was for a long time postdoctoral fellow, research associate in another non-NSF grant. This time the grant was from, do I have the name somewhere? Yeah, from the US Naval Office. Again, you might wonder what the US Navy has to do with this kind of research, but they actually gave us a ton of money to look at social dimensions of climate-related, climate change-related resource conflicts in Eastern Africa. And this made a big change in my career as a research anthropologist, because I got to do primary research in Southern Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and a little bit of Rwanda. It was a Rift Valley-wide fieldwork. Well, not the fieldwork component. The fieldwork was still vast coverage, including Tanzania. But even more so, we got to do a cross-cultural research on more than 49 anthropologically described East African societies. Again, that was a very important project for me. So what did we, well, in the course of these engagements, how did I get that opportunity? How did I start? I mean, this is simply to tell you, grant getting is not a myth. You can actually win it, get it. And like everything else, it started by research and identifying like solicitations, programs that fit to what you wish to accomplish. And sometimes it is even just, it starts with a conversation with colleagues, like word of mouth. So look for it, search for it, and try to kind of weigh which fits with yours and which one. The National Science Foundation, Tessema touched it a little bit. This is their website, the official website. Just go on, like there are many, I guess, false websites, but look for the official website, and there you'll find current opportunities, archive of funding opportunities. Both are important to see what kind of things are available currently and what kind of activities were funded before. And it's a nice website that allows you to search in different ways. You can custom tailor your search, and definitely Professor Tessema will be happy to assist you. For those of you interested in cultural anthropology, like myself, this is a cultural anthropology program. It has a doctoral dissertation portal. It has also senior researchers portal. Just look around, zoom in. They'll tell you what the program is in short, the synopsis, and then the program contact persons and awards made through this program before. And then important dates here. These are really something you can explore by yourself. I'm just simply highlighting how we do it, where to start. Okay, so this is a program, the project I wanted to just speak a little bit as a success story. These are my project mates listed by name and also discipline. It is interdisciplinary, as you can see here. And the idea was, what made this project successful was probably, in our overview, intellectual merit, broad impacts, we just made strong claims that the project does more than what traditional anthropologists do. In studying impacts, anthropologists go to a small community, usually we like small sizes, and give you a more nuanced ethnographic description of how people respond to shocks and what happens because of that, and just to have a longer or rather a deep dive into a particular society. But funding agencies want more than that, more than just knowledge of a particular community. And anthropology in its at its core also promises to do that. It is the study of man, which means humans in all places, all cultures, all times. Generalizability is very important here, as Professor Berhanu puts it very poetically. There is this perennial question in social sciences finding, this elusive medium between what you called overgeneralization and hyper-particularization. And in this project, we were trying, or we proposed to maybe not resolve that problem, but to take us a bit further toward this finding that, much needed medium between generalization and particularization. And it seems we were successful in that. They funded us. And the theoretical, the intellectual merit is that one. And the broader impact is, of course, when you think broader global shock like climate change, you want to have generalizable knowledge that can be applied not to just farmers in highland Ethiopia or pastoralists in the arid lands of Tanzania or Kenya, but about humans as a whole. So we were trying to, we probably caught the reviewers' attention saying, yeah, we have something new here. And that is a kind of effort they want. The second case is an ethnographic, a proposal for doing more ethnography in highland Ethiopia. And we were trying to be smart in this case. I was a principal investigator, and we wanted a follow-up kind of discussion of the generalizations we got in the previous project I told you. And this time, I can tell you, the project was not accepted. Although we went a lot, like it was reviewed by how many? 6 people, a panel of 6 people. These notes are from NSF decisions directly. We got, or the proposal got 2 very good, which is the highest good, well, excellent, maybe the highest. Yeah, 2 very good, 1 good, and 3 fair. And because of that, the decision was the proposal was not competitive, and we got a law needing substantial revision. And you can see this, they are very transparent in their decision. They said this summary was read by the assigned panelists, and they concurred that the summary accurately reflects the panel's decision, which is not competitive, need serious revision. Now, 2 things, as I said here, one, I'm happy that the process seems very transparent. They shared the notes. If you want, I actually have the review notes of all the 6 reviewers emailed to me. I can share it because it is a project on highland Ethiopia, and you might be interested to see what they have to say. So that is one. The other thing is, look at the wording. It's not just, the proposal was totally useless. They didn't reject it outright or unfit, but it's just competition. We didn't beat the competition, which may be, many odd things in that, right? And all they said is, we need substantial revision. And currently, I'm happy to say I'm revising that. I don't know, this time we might withstand the competition and win. But as Professor Tessema mentioned, they encourage you to come back. It's not a one-time, deal, and you can't just go back. So what are the takeaways? I actually have a conversation with the program manager for cultural anthropology after receiving this decision. And he gave me so many interesting things. I want to share 2 things. One, which he mentioned as good habit I should just adopt in revising this, which is I have to make a strong case for scientific generalizability. That must be a case. Still, National Science Foundation as a science institution, they are interested beyond a community study. Scientifically generalizable idea is what they want to fund. But look, having said that, they also said the third one here, just jumping the second one, which is speak to your narrower audience and the broader cultural anthropology audience. They ask for generalizability. At the same time, the third comment was, look, this is a paper, a proposal on Ethiopia. So they want me to have a very clear, conversation with a small group of Ethiopianist scholars. And of course, Africanist cultural anthropologists, right? Sorry. Yeah, that is the trick. It comes back to that, searching for that elusive medium between generalizability and particularism. The middle one is also important. They care about clear research design, data analysis that is custom tailored to your project. They just don't want to, they don't want you to get away with sort of generic research design. It has to be specific. It has to convince them. So that is one important set of take-homes I wanted to share. And the next one is just, the bad habits. In fact, the program manager was so clear with me, when I had very genuine conversation. And one of the things he was concerned about is what he called foregone conclusion or foregone arguments. And this is really important. I did not notice it until he said it again and again. We in Ethiopia, especially working on social science issues, we tend to be, I hate to say this, political. In essence, our political opinion kind of comes through the proposal, sometimes blinding us. And you can see this in statements like, I was, for example, speaking of local institutions, writing about Endris or Ere, as we call them in Wollo. And one of my statements, by way of describing the context of this institution, was the claim that Ere or Endris institutions have been co-opted by successive regimes. And I mentioned what Dirk made use of them in EPRDF, and I said more or less the same statement about the current government. And the program manager got back to tell me, at least don't speak for the current government in that sense, because you are going to search it. Don't make the foregone conclusion. That is a good example. The other is questions, research questions. NSF, also a science research institute, understands that different disciplines have different research traditions, methods. You don't necessarily need a testable hypothesis, but you need like key research question, your guiding questions. And in Ethiopia, we have a tendency to make those a laundry list of research questions, unfortunately. And we do the same for research literature review too. Sometimes we feel like everyone under the sky has to be mentioned in the review. No, we don't have any obligation to mention anybody unless the work adds value to the proposal we are writing to. So that's just for you to be aware of from my mistake. The other, again, this one is a generic comment, but jargons. Some of the reviewers may not be from your own discipline. And one example, the program reviewer told me is the word deep hangout. In anthropology, describing ethnographic methods, we say, I'll be talking to people, participant observation, and by way of dramatizing how you are going to be connected, we say, I will have rapport and deep hangout with people. And I don't like it. It's just simple jargon stuff. The other thing is poor definition of concepts, operationalizing them. Again, this is a mistake we made in anthropology, and I was given as example how I used the words food security, drought, and so on in my dissertation. Food security can be defined in many ways, and I'm sure most of you in this workshop might already know this. Food security may be related to production, the supply side. It may have to do with more access, including cultural entitlements. It might even have to do with knowledge stuff, like knowledge of how to process food, the diet quality of different types of food, and all that. So it's production, access, knowledge, health, and different kind of dimensions. In fact, there are more elements to it than I can say here. So in the proposal, they want a clear sense of what you mean. And drought also, drought can be simply, I guess, delayed in growing rainfall in the main wet season, but it can also be just abrupt of rain after it came in. So there is a time dimension, there is, the duration of it, the onset of it, and all of that they want you. And definitely they want you to avoid being activist or doing, at least science is not advocacy. They want me to know that. So these are the take homes. Well, I have the permission to share this information if you want. The cultural anthropology program officers are Jeff Mantes, and here is his email, and his colleague Berhanu. Because I'm in conversation with them. I don't have her email. I will leave these slides with you if you want, but definitely for those of you in cultural and anthropology, or more generally in behavioral sciences, this can be useful information. I'm done, thank you. And hold on, I'm trying to get back to not sharing. Yeah. With that, can we have some discussion, please? Question and answers. I'll figure it out how to. Adane, how do I stop sharing? I got it. Okay.
You did it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any question, please, on the three presentations, starting with the fundamentals Dr. Adane presented, the SWOT analysis Dr. Seleshi kindly shared, and my own personal reflections, if it has anything for you. And you can raise your hands, use the question answer feature, or just throw stuff on the chat. I see Asmama raising your hand, and Dr. Matadel. Maybe we begin with Asmama. Asmama, are you there? You are muted.
Teferi?
Yes.
Hello?
Okay. Then we continue with Dr. Matadel. Go ahead, Dr. Matadel.
Yes. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we do.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. I'm very happy today. I'm from Matadel, the tertiary campus.
You are breaking, Dr. Matadel.
One new campus, third campus, Dr.
It's breaking.
Sorry?
Your voice is breaking.
Yeah. Problem, yeah? What about
Maybe
now?
you can write your question on the chat. We can't hear you.
Are you hearing me now?
Okay, try. Go ahead.
I just want to express my appreciation to Professor Tessema, Dr. Soulemane, and Dr. Teferi. It's a very productive day. I was following up as a workshop starting 2 p.m. Very comprehensive, well organized. On behalf of my university and my college, I want to appreciate your commitment. My next question is, it would have been very nice also if you organize, able to organize regarding the publication of high impact journals. Wollo University and publication records very impressive. It is increasing year to year. We are had a competition with the research universities in publication, but still we have very young scholars who need support. And for the next follow-up, if there's a plan to support us in publication, high impact journals, sharing your experience in publication, that would be important. Again, we have a limitation on big data analysis and different software packages. That would be also a gap in our scholars in Wollo University and others. These are two my comments for the next issues to be considered in the Wollo University Diaspora group. Thank you much.
Great. All right, point well taken. Yeah, Asmama, we are still there? Asmama? Okay, I don't see him. Any other question? Any other question before we head to the final activity in this workshop, which is just a concluding remark by our own Professor Berhanu. But I don't want to cut it short. We have still few time. We're supposed to, not much, but yeah, we have some time. What is in the time in the scene after 11, right? After 5. Yeah.
Dr. Teferi, can I say a few things? There are 2 points that I...
Go ahead.
Okay. I think from my slides, few things that I didn't mention. In addition to the intellectual merit and broader impact that has been mentioned earlier, there are other things also that we need to consider, or there are things that the reviewers always look at. One is the moral and ethical imperatives. So when we submit research, usually we go to the IRB, Institutional Review Board.
Yeah.
I don't know in Ethiopia, but it has to follow that ethical procedure. One thing, and the other, data collection and record keeping is also important. Where do we keep that data, especially if it's personal related? You know, we have to be very ethical in keeping record of research data, especially if you work with human subjects. Audit can come sometimes. Here it has to be, you know, records has to be kept properly, and sometimes they even ask audit report from the institution to make sure that you know, the institution is carrying out its fiduciary responsibility. And the other point, usually they see is the dissemination of research reports, not just to keep it in a file, but how are you going to disseminate it? One thing I would like to mention, I think very interesting what Dr. Teferi mentioned, to find that between the generalizability and particularity. You know, we do big research in social science, but it remains only in the college campus. The general public doesn't know about that report. Here in the US, for instance, there is a radio program called Hidden Brain. What they do, they, you know, report a summary of social science research, like in psychology and things like that. So the whole public can be educated that way. And so that's critical. And the other is collaboration and partnership is very important. Instead of just one professor working by himself, how can he collaborate with other departments, with other agencies? Sometimes they may even need a letter of endorsement from other institutions. For instance, if it's a research in the health sector, probably it's good to get endorsement from the Ministry of Health or other agencies or other non-profit organizations engage on that kind of activity. So those things could help you to win that competition. Thank you.
Absolutely. Important points. Well taken. Yeah. Any other comment, question? Yeah. If not, I think I suggest we go to the concluding remarks. And Professor Berhanu, happy to welcome you and take as much time as you want to inspire us.
Thank you so much. We are paid to talk.
I'm sorry, how many people do know Professor Berhanu? Well, I think many of our participants may not know him.
Okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
You give a professor a microphone and create a deadly combination, right? So I may talk for hours, but I've been given a few minutes, and I won't take more than 10 really, because it has been a long day. On behalf of WU-DAG, I welcome all of you. Often we think in provincialist terms. Members of the Wollo University advisory group, I think, are hail. Almost all of us hail from Wollo, so we think Wollo University. Well, they are and Magdala. I wish I had called it, I don't know, Asian Theodorus University, but Magdalamba University are all Wolloye, when in fact they are federal universities. So the fact that some of you come from Baghdad or Dorera is pleases us greatly, because whatever issue we raise really has national significance, and therefore we have a lot to learn from each other. I would also like to thank the organizers of this seminar. Dr. Adane and Dr. Ayalew, Dr. Teferi and Dr. Seid, and perhaps others for a very enlightening morning or afternoon. We have been holding these seminars from time to time, and I'm going to say nothing about the mechanics of grant writing because I am a consumer of that wisdom rather than a contributor. But I just want to make 2 points for you to ponder as you walk away from this conversation. The one basic core idea that has come up again and again that really informs the rest of the research conversation is that we all need to strive to come up with good research questions. Funding, comes next. That question should be intriguing. That question should be answerable with the theory that's available out there, with the data that's available out there, or with the data that's likely to be generated from the research. And as we have said, it has to have a broader significance. And that is very hard to do. But ultimately, that is a challenge. But a second issue that we have not raised directly today, because that's not germane, is the research environment itself at Ethiopian universities. Is there an enabling environment for research, for good research, innovative research? That's a question I hope maybe we'll take up maybe at the next session. Maybe we can add. I'm just adding this to the list that Dr. Matadel mentioned. And let me just say a couple of things about that to get us going. In the US, we have 3 kinds of universities. We have primarily teaching colleges who emphasize excellence in teaching, and we need them greatly. Then we have research universities, outstanding research universities. And the Ministry of Education seems to be inspired by that and pretends to create universities, research universities in every village, which is largely inappropriate. Perhaps maybe 4 or 5 could be good research universities because they are expensive, and they should be the ones producing most of the PhDs. I would say, Addis Ababa University is a natural choice, maybe Bahar Dar, Alama, Jimma. I don't know which is the 5th. We can create a competition. Then we have a 3rd category, and that's really a very important model that we need to ponder, and that is universities that try to meld excellence in teaching and excellence in research, which is very hard to do. And we just have a handful of those universities in this country that try to do that. And one of them is mine. Actually, mine is the first university in the US by having the first law school. But actually, it is primarily undergraduate institutions with selective PhD programs. I use it as an example because this is really a model that Ethiopian universities, most of the Ethiopian universities should follow. That is, we do have individuals who excel in research. They are sort of tiny islands of research, and we should support them. But we should also look for creating centers of excellence based on the comparative advantage of each institution. Maybe Wollo University can specialize in industrial technologies, say Kombolcha, or healthcare, or musicology. But you shouldn't even try to create a PhD in anthropology or in economics. You know, I saw proposals by Kassa University, which has, I don't know, 3 or 4 young PhDs, and the same thing was the case with Bahar a few years ago, trying to create a PhD program, which is sort of nonsensical if you really think of it, think on the face of it. So that whatever incentives the Ministry of Education has given universities to create postgraduate programs right and left really should be resisted. It's hard to do, but it should be resisted so that individual excellence and centers of research excellence should ultimately lead to PhD programs and other postgraduate programs, not the other way around. And the reason I say that is sort of my own university is probably it's a top 40 research. It's an R1 university, and in my department we have 29 PhDs in economics, but we don't have a graduate program. We don't have a PhD program. So the administration comes and says, "You are capable of running, an excellent graduate program because you have the faculty base. You have the research base. Your research output is at the median of PhD granting universities. So why don't you have one? That will make us look better." And then we say, "Okay, give us adequate funding to support the graduate students. We'll do it." Of course, they won't. And therefore, we say we don't want another mediocre PhD program. And thank God, American universities embrace a certain level of democratic decision making. So if faculty says no, the president cannot impose a program on us. That's not necessarily the case in Ethiopia. But the point is that we excel in research because we support individual research, and also we use centers that specialize in something others don't do, and those centers are able to attract huge amount of funding, tens of millions of dollars. And through that, we train our undergraduate students, support the faculty, so much so that I know Teferi will be unhappy with this. We send more students to top 20 PhD programs in economics than does Yale or Harvard. All right, so that excellence in research does not necessarily depend on having a PhD program. It depends on having a supportive institutional environment. And that is what you as a collectivity, the faculty, as well as the academic leadership really should lobby your institution and resist the Ministry of Education imposition of these half-funded, half-baked ideas on universities that should be autonomous and that should decide what is best for them. This may sound political, sorry, Dr. Teferi, but the decision-making with regard to universities is intensely political.
Yeah.
But we should strive to shield them from undue political pressures, give them the right to control their curricula so that they can produce highly competent undergraduate students. We recently tried to recruit PhD students to Ohio State University's engineering program when the Wollo University delegation came here. And Ohio State was quite enthusiastic. And then when they saw at the records of the students, they said they can't survive here. They're not well trained. So having well-trained undergraduate and master's students is perhaps the best way to feed into PhD programs. And hopefully, if we treat our faculty as well as we should, they would want to come back and teach in Ethiopia instead of running away. That's really all I want to say today. And I just want to extend my gratitude to all of you for such a brilliant program of presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was what I was waiting for, just some inspiring things and word of wisdom, about our direction. I know I have done a lousy job introducing Professor Berhanu. Just if I may, I have to add, he's professor of economics at the famous William and Mary here in the United States. Berhanu was one of the legendary students at Wageningen when that school was at its best way back. He has several publications in his name, and I tend to be a fan of his work mostly because of his discussion of what he calls the Ethiopian paradox. Like he asks this, overarching question: why Ethiopia, which is one of just the earliest, he calls it pedigree states, and that managed to survive to the present, withstanding all kinds of external challenges, including European colonialism, failed to become a modern prosperous state, a nation. He asks that question, and still, that is a question never answered fully. But Berhanu presents like an amazing analysis based on economic history of our country, our own data, just without even bothering us with sophisticated economic models. So it was a very accessible interpretation, even for me as an anthropologist. I loved it, and I think I don't see them, but my anthropology PhD students at Bahar Dar University, we read a section from extracts from that book when discussing ethnography of Ethiopia. Thank you, Berhanu. Again, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Adane, last words?
Yes, I'm glad that we invited Professor Berhanu. Professor Berhanu is very, very accomplished professor. We are all proud of him. I think everybody knows Professor Berhanu, especially if you went through Wageningen. Even my age, we know about him. So I think it's good to have this kind of discussion, honest discussion. It's all about the quality of education he spoke. What's the purpose of having programs if they don't solve problem? If they, let's say, why do we need people with a PhD level? Maybe, to solve more complex problems, to conduct more complex research. If they don't do that, that means we're wasting money. I think that's what he said. So in the future, we can even organize sessions on quality of education if the group is interested, if Wollo University and other universities are interested. But I think my final word is, we are kind of outsiders, by living in diaspora. So we need to hear more from the faculty and staff from the universities. If they present, let's say about their strategic direction or their strategic plan or the support system they need, then we can coordinate our support better. So thank you so much, Professor Berhanu. Thank you so much for everybody who participated in this session. I know the number dropped. Probably it's because the internet issue there. So we are very, very thankful to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. That is it for today. It has been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.